Hello everyone and welcome to Azerbaijan, the Baku City Street Circuit for another round 4 of the 2023 Superleague Championship. Here we are, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, always a tricky and treacherous one. It's different from any other circuit on the calendar due to that ridiculously long straight and its unique half and half features. I'm being joined today by Ryan Elliott, as always, and your cameras are being provided by Szymon Frelik, as always, once again. Ryan, what a circuit this is, and what a venue for our 4th round of the championship.
What a circuit. Personally, massive fan of Baku. I almost considered even racing it in SL2. That says a lot for me to jump back in the seat, but Baku's always good, really entertaining track. A little bit of a mixture. It's like, obviously it is a street circuit, it's not quite like a Monaco, but you know, the high-speed nature of it always makes for some interesting racing. The run down to turn 1 through that final sector is just unbelievable. And when you've got such high downforce cars like this, it's really satisfying. So yeah, going to be a good one, 51 laps. Doesn't seem as long as some of the other Grand Prix, but it is a 6-kilometre circuit. This one just ticks over that 6-kilometre mark.
Indeed. Of course, a standard Grand Prix length is 310 kilometres, and the lap that goes just over that mark. And 51 laps is the right amount here, so it's just as long as the other Grand Prix, although a slightly longer circuit than most of them, with the exception of maybe Spa-Francorchamps. There you see it, almost exactly 6 kilometres. That's I can't decide whether that's satisfying or infuriating that it isn't exactly 6 kilometres. It's like Spa, which is 7.004, I think, something like that. Anyway, the word of the day recently has been domination. We've had a couple of different races that have gone very much one driver's way. Of course, Jake Dennehan won by over 10 seconds in Bahrain, and then last time out it was a bit closer, with Adam Maguire having to catch and pass Luke Maguire in the final stages, and pass Jake Dennehan as well, although he absolutely had the advantage over his opponents in the late stages. And then a few days ago, if you saw the SL2 race, Owen McGorgy completely thrashed the opposition. Something like 22 or 23 seconds was the gap on that occasion. So the question now is, when are we going to get our next photo finish? And actually, I think Baku is a great chance for that to happen, because you have this long straight here. You have a unique situation where sometimes it's best not to be ahead coming out of the final corner. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle further back in the SL2 race, where 2 drivers played DRS chicken while fighting for 3rd, and they ended up coming together on the very last lap. And we've seen it in Formula 1. Remember Valtteri Bottas slipstreaming past Lance Stroll for 2nd in 2017, and plenty of other examples of that as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see the race going down to the last few laps, maybe even the last lap today, depending on who's up there fighting for it, Ryan.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth on that one. I was about to say the Bottas Stroll year. What was that? 2018?
2017.
17, yeah. But when you were saying that there was one word, which was domination, I thought you were going to either say Maguire, you know, we had a Maguire 1-2, or Ireland, because we had an all-Irish top 3 last time out. Which
Indeed.
Is possible. I'm going to go put my neck on the line and say it's probably a first.
Oh yeah, definitely.
At least in SL1.
We've had English top 3s, and we've had German top 3s, and yes. We probably have had a Dutch top 3 at some point, or very nearly anyway. But yeah, we've never had an all-Irish top 3 until last time out, so that's very, very cool.
Most recently was a German, apart from Australia. I think it would have been the Box and Matthias Mus.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
3.
Possibly
yeah.
Yannis Volburn, maybe? Who I erroneously called Dutch recently, so my apologies about that.
So yeah, either way, going to be an interesting one as you see Maguire bail out of that after 2. Well, I'm going to ignore the purple sectors because obviously everyone's only setting the first laps of the session. Got a few standing drives as well this week again, Caitlin.
Indeed. Would you like to talk us through some of those?
Most notably absent, I'd say, is Matthias Mus. He's away on holiday this week, so he has been replaced by... Let me check. It is George. Ooh, that's a tricky surname.
Let me see
Ugliest.
if I can.
I'm gonna go with that. That's another Greek to the lineup. I'm not sure if we. I can't remember last time we had a Greek driver, but matches the nationality of the team as well.
I can't see him on the list actually. Is he in the session at the minute?
Good question.
Okay,
I'm not sure, but yeah, he has been Red Archer's reserve test driver throughout the years.
Wings missing from Jan Granqvist's car there, so he's recovering to the pits. Maybe it's just a tactic. He's got much less drag for the straight. Obviously, I'm joking about that one. Alex Lahu hasn't driven in Super League yet this year, so that's a stand-in drive there. And Lahu is driving today for Epic Racing, so he will be replacing. So I'll get to that in a second. Fournier's right. So I think he's replacing Fournier. Yes, indeed. So that's a change there. And now Georgalis has made it into the session. He will be racing for Red Archer today, so you're absolutely right. Well done for spotting that. How about Silver Joffert there? That's a name that I haven't seen in Super League yet.
No, I don't think I've seen that one before.
Silver Joffert racing for the GSR team today, Green Stripes Racing, and possibly his first Super League race, although I will double check that as qualifying goes on. So far in qualifying, Jake Dennehan is top of the times, followed by Adam Maguire, the winner of the last race, and then Owen McGorgy, who absolutely dominated the SL2 race the other day. Look out for him, because if that's anything to go by, then he is absolutely Super League level. And then, of course, you've got Pansar and Stevens up there as well. Luke Maguire still yet to set a lap, so we're on board with him and watching the THR driver attempting to put down a flyer.
Yep, always interesting to see Maguire. He's definitely a win it or bin it kind of guy in the qualifying sessions. We've seen some mistakes before, even in this session so far, he's already aborted one lap. But it's looking like pretty dominant from Jake Dennehan at the moment at the top. Again, his Luke's brother Adam, twin brother that is actually, sorry, in second place as well. McGorgy third. Looking good, and I tell you what, Panzar's doing a good job as well, up in 4. It seems like he's always been there with Robin, but this season he seems to have found something else. Pretty quick last week out as well.
Indeed. By the way, an update on the Epic Racing situation. Jeffrey Fournier has made it in now, and it's Fabio Sixto who won't be racing for them today. And to be honest, I did know that actually, so I don't know why I didn't remember that. Although in my defence, I have just got off a train. But anyway, here comes Luke Maguire, fastest of anyone in the first sector, I think, and that is a true purple. Across the line he goes, and he goes second, and it's just under 2/10 off the pole. But we have both of the Maguires in the top 3 there, just as we did at the last race. Here comes David Fidok to set his first flying lap, and Fidok goes P12, and we've had 20 drivers of the 24 setting laps so far.
Yep, it's taken people a while to sort of get that first lap in. We're almost halfway through the session now. But this is, the sort of theme of racing on a street circuit. People are starting the session pushing as hard as they possibly can, and then as the session sort of goes on, people take slightly less risks. See Jan Granqvist absolutely mounting the curve. He's purple in sector 1 by 6,000ths, but almost 4/10 down in sector 2. I will say Jan has put on a decent performance at the start of this season. Obviously his first season in Super League, so he's having a good go at it with Marco Frelik's squad, the Super Venturi guys, and alongside his experienced teammate Jukka-Pekka Laulu as well, doing a pretty good job, just plucking away. Good solid start as they go up to P3. That was a fantastic final sector.
Very, very good. Jake Dennehan about to improve once again by the look of it. Oh, never mind. His second sector, he's backed off, so this is not a lap for Jake Dennehan. And actually, I think I saw him hanging a bit, so there's a little bit of damage there. Zolt Schuch's about to complete a lap. By the way, I've been looking up the reserve driver situation. We have 3 debutants today. So Georgalis has not raced in Super League at all. He's only been a test driver up to this point, with the exception of an Academy Series outing, I think. Alex Lahu has never made a start in Super League before. He has done FS1, FS2, and Super Lights, and his best Super Lights race result was actually here a couple of days ago, 6th place. So look out for Alex Lahu there. We've got Silver Joffert, and he is a driver moving up as well. He has done a few Super Lights races, and his best result was in Monza last year with 8th place. The other reserve driver, of course, Owen McGorgy, has done 3 Super League races in the past, most recently scoring 9th position at the Brazilian Grand Prix last year, but he is yet to start a race this season. So those are your reserve drivers today. And now back to the qualifying session for the final 5 minutes, and Adam Maguire, that is a true purple in the first sector, but he clobbers the wall, which might not cost him too much actually, because it points you in the right direction, and now he fires it off towards that final sector.
It also depends if the game's picked that up as a wall riding, but the way that he's sort of pedaling doesn't look like he's slowing down at all. Steady sort of session so far. Big sort of standout performances at the moment. It's got to be Granquist. We've seen Maguire go across the line. What's he going to do? And he does improve. He goes up to 2nd, even with being 2/10 down in the final sector. So maybe Dennehan isn't so safe after all. Let's see what everybody's got to give him for the rest of this session. But another good qualifier, at least, you know, if compared to the rest of this season, I'd say Chris Shepherd. You know, P11, we know Chris is more a racer than a qualifier. If he can get... Oh, he's in a good position at the moment because he'd be able to have the open tyre choice as well.
Indeed, there's George Giorgalis' first competitive lap in qualifying. He's a little way off, he's about 4.7 seconds off the lead, but this is his Super League debut, so I expect he's out there to get experience and see if he can pick up some points through attrition. Here is Chris Shepherd, and you said he's in a good position, and he very much is, because even though P11 is not the best position to start in, it's better, slightly ironically, than P9 or P10, because you get the free tyre choice, and you can set up your race however you like. And we often see people who start in P11 finishing, you know, 5th or 6th, sometimes higher, just because they've had that strategic advantage. He's in the castle section now, the unusually narrow section of the track, and when that opened, the gap through that turn 8 was actually only about 5.1 meters, the width of the circuit. It's been widened a tiny bit now to prevent accidents, but still things happen through there. It's still extremely narrow. The Formula 2 race leader crashed out there last year, and we saw a couple of incidents in Super Lights a couple of days ago as well. Hasn't been the cleanest of laps from Shepherd. His first sector was good, his second sector was invalidated apparently, so this will not be a lap from him. Owen McGorky has a chance despite being down in the second sector, and he now comes into the pits. We've got 3 minutes to go, so they will be setting up for their final run.
Yeah, we've not seen too many times come in. I'm quite surprised we haven't seen a lot of movement up the leaderboard, up and down leaderboard really, but they just may have Dennehan been in the pits for a while.
He has, but
I'm not sure if he was just there. Like, he's coming out of the pits right now. He almost seemed comfortable this session. Like, you know, he's got a 10.5 in Super League standards is a good gap, a very, very good gap. So he's fairly safe, but we're going to start to see now the majority of guys coming out for the final run, and it's really difficult now. It's, do you absolutely send it balls to the wall, or do you hold back a little bit, sorry, and just get an improvement in there? I know what I'd do, but I'm not racing in Super League, and there's a reason for that. Let's see what the professionals can do, as we see Fournier at least trying to put a lap in, still yet to set a lap time this session, which is a little bit strange.
Indeed. Well, this is the time where the times start to really count. Geoffrey Fournier, who joined in the session quite late actually, made me wonder if Lahu was replacing him rather than Sixter, but across the line he goes P21 for the time being. And talking of Lahu, actually, he's just come in the chat and said, help car slow. Indeed, down in P19 at the minute is Alex, and obviously hoping for better. Although, to be honest, for your Super League debut, I don't think that is too bad, because at least you're not last. Here comes Zoltschukes. He has started his final qualifying lap now, and it will be his final lap, because he crossed the line with less than 1 minute 38 seconds to go, so there's no way he can get around fast enough to start another one. This is the first sector. You've got the 90-degree corners, both left and right, and it's very different from the final sector of this course, which is the long straight, and then of course completely different from the middle sector, which has more angular corners with less 90 degrees and more curved braking and all of that. And it really is a track of 2 or 3 parts, which makes it so unique. And I think unique tracks always belong on a Grand Prix calendar. Up we go through the castle section. You can see it's already completely different from the first sector. There's elevation change for a start. And now we're going through a fast left-hander with no braking. You are completely on it through there and hoping the rear end doesn't step out. Here's a tricky braking zone over a curb, and he just avoids the wall that we saw someone else clobbering earlier. And his second sector has been decent. His first sector, not quite as quick as some of the other people have been setting on this lap. Chris Shepherd has gone faster in the first sector. And Denahan's first sector has been quicker as well. So Denahan potentially improving on his own time. Here comes Zoltschukes towards the line. And this is his final time, so this is what counts. And from P5, he stays P5 despite a couple of good sectors. He was slightly faster, but still a hundredth of a second behind Jan Grankvist in 4th place. Owen McGorgy is fastest of anyone in the first sector. Denahan is quicker than his own time in the first sector. And he approaches the final sector now, the long straight. And if he can hook up these final few flicks, even though there's no braking zone, he can get this lap in and he can improve and potentially give himself pole position. What is the lap for the Edge Esports driver, Jake Denahan? The timer ticks, and it is a 1:38.548, the fastest time we've seen today. Maguire, I don't know if he's quite up to full speed just yet. McGorgy is coming through. Grankvist into the pits. Here comes Owen McGorgy. This could be pole here. Keep an eye on this. Oh, second place, and it is 5,000ths of a second off pole position. I told you that he was quick, but not quite quick enough to snatch pole position away from Jake Denahan in the final stages. The top few drivers are all in the pits now. In fact, it looks as if every driver who could set a lap has now come back into the pits. So Jake Denahan has pole position by just 5,000ths of a second. Either of those drivers could win the race. Denahan first, McGorgy second. I'll wait to see the order on my screen before I talk you through all of it. And there it is. Luke Maguire not far back either, 0.2 of a second. Then we have Adam Maguire, so it's an all Maguire second row. Jan Grankvist is 5th. Then it's Zoltschukes, Tom Stevens, Stefan Rohr, Robin Panzer, and Tomasz Vok. Vok improved slightly on that last lap himself. Chris Shepherd is P11 and has the free tyre choice. Then it's Daniel Stepkowski, Jakub-Pekka Lalu, Florian Geyer, David Feidok, Moritz Kropp, Dylan Platt, Fabian Schitzik, Alex Lahu, and Philip Pushke. And then the final 4 cars on the grid are Jeffrey Fournier, Silver Joffert, George Giorgalis, and Yanis Fulburn, with Yanis failing to set a lap, I'm afraid to say. So those are your 24 drivers for the day. And we have a bit of a cracker on our hands, judging by that qualifying session. I think there are 2 or 3 drivers who are looking to be the favourites, but honestly, the contenders go even further back because of what a unique circuit Baku is. We're expecting some unorthodox strategy calls today. And Ryan, what do you make of that finish?
Mighty impressive. Them two seem to have the measure on everybody, at least in the qualifying pace, but we know Denahan can turn up, and he has today. And McGorgy, I mean, all you had to do was look at Super Light, and you knew he would definitely be quick enough for Super League, and he's proved that. I mean, fair play, 5,000ths of a second, something. Hopefully we'll see a race result determined by 5,000ths of a second. That'd be pretty cool.
Could you imagine? That would be a photo finish for the ages.
That'd be really cool.
So we've
But it's
got
Baku.
a,
I could see that. I could see that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen second place in Formula One decided by that much, and yeah, it's absolutely possible. Especially, I mean, if it was going to happen anywhere, it was going to happen at Baku, right?
Exactly.
So I was about to say that the top 3 in qualifying there were the 3 drivers who had won races recently, although that's not taking into account that Magorgi's win came in super light, and Luke Maguire, of course, is starting ahead of Adam Maguire, despite the fact it was Adam who won last time out in Melbourne. But we do have our usual suspects up the front nonetheless. You've got Jake Dennehan, of course, who won in Bahrain. Now, where did Tom Stevens qualify, actually? I
Like 8th or something like that. He was towards the back end of the top 10, I believe.
Yeah, he was 7th, actually. I've just looked back at that. And he was, of course, our winner in San Marino, so I've kind of neglected him a little bit in the session. I think he would have been hoping for a bit better, but anyway. Let's talk through the championship, actually, now that I've brought that up. You've got Jake Dennehan leading with 3 podiums from 3 races. He has had a very nearly perfect start to this year. And he is 4 points ahead of Tom Stevens now. Stevens has been 1st, 2nd and 4th, so very nearly a straight podium finish rate as well. Adam Maguire probably would have been leading the championship, but for a terrible round in Bahrain where he ran out of fuel towards the end. He is now 3rd in the championship, having won in Australia last time out. Daniel Stepkowski is best of the rest with 3 top 10 finishes. He was 4th, 6th and 6th. And it's Tomasz Vok, Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Luke Maguire now jumps up to 7th position, having finished 2nd in Australia. Then it's Jan Grankvist and Philip Pushke. Although Pushke starts from P20 today, so really not a good performance from the German. And then it's Zort Schukes in a 10th position in the championship. The teams to look out for, according to the standings, you've got THR on top by 10 points. And then Edge Esports, powered by RSR, Nocturne and Super Venturi. Although the development screen shows a slightly different story. We can talk about that in a minute if you so wish. But anyway, that's how it stands so far. But Super League, of course, all the chassis start off the same. They do split off throughout the season. They develop in slightly different ways, although theoretically it is a lot more even than some real-world forms of motorsport. The drivers definitely still matter, especially at this stage in the season. We're still quite early here, and qualifying, I think, showed that, with the top guys rising to the front once again.
Yeah, not only do we have development, which I'll again get onto in a second, with the full details, but one thing to note is engines. Unlike other tracks, pretty straightforward here. Majority of the grid have opted for 100% brand new engines. Very understandable and predictable. Look at the size of that straight and it kind of tells you everything you need to know. Both of the Epic cars have both gone for race used engines, 69 and 68%, so that's roughly works out to probably only done 1 race on them engines. And as we see Moritz Kropp hit the wall there, losing both his wings. I believe that is the Matthias Moose car, or what is now George's car, has taken a 70% engine, and then 70% engine for the Super Venturi as well. But in terms of development,
it's Fabio Sixter who stepped out, so Moose is still here. He is racing for...
Moose isn't here.
Oh, you're absolutely right. My apologies.
What about Red Archer?
Sorry, I thought I saw him earlier. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we're talking about Red Archer. Sorry, brain fart. Carry on.
He's on a cruise ship. I know he's not here. So yeah, in terms of development, we have seen a split strategy, as I touched on in the last stream. Some teams going for a 3-week development path, some going for a 4. So we've had a fair few teams. Edge has... Who else am I looking at? Mode. THR, Super Venturi, for example, have all had upgrades for this round. The other teams on a different path should have upgrades for the next round. Sort of top in the development race at the moment, THR and Mode in their respective main categories. Edge as well, really got quite a good car together for this race. But obviously, there's a little bit more to it than just having the best car at one round. It's about when you choose to have the best car for. So let's see how it goes. I mean, when you look at that grid, like you were saying, the upgrades aren't strictly as not important, but as punishing as in real life. Everybody still has a fair chance with these cars. The driver still definitely does drag the result out of the car. Not quite like real life where you can just have Hamilton or Verstappen just cruise to a win in a good car. So, I mean, we had like, what, 5/10 split in the top 10, something like that. Super close, really, when you think about it. But anyways, we continue this session. We're going yellow in sector 1. Just 3 minutes left of the warm-up. Everyone just sort of getting into race mode now, starting to get the level heads on. Obviously, they've just had quite an intense qualifying session. They need to get out of that mode.
Sorry, trying to speak while muted doesn't really work, but yeah, so 0.5 of a second separated the top 8 in qualifying, and then if you have to look for a full second, you've got to go all the way back to 14th position. You do get some tracks that are closer in qualifying, but this is a slightly longer one than the circuits we're used to, so it looks a lot closer if you look at qualifying from, say, Sao Paulo or Monaco or the Red Bull Ring. But it's a bit of an illusion because this track is 25 seconds longer than those. But I mean, to be honest, that makes it even more amazing that we had it separated by 0.005 of a second up the front. And it really shows you that there's nothing between the two. It's a blink of an eye. It's almost a toss of a coin at that stage. And I would say that those two probably have absolutely equal cars for qualifying. What they have for the race is a different matter, of course, and the strategies are going to come into play as well. I was talking to David Fidok the other day about strategy, and he was telling me that the tyre wear is significantly higher than expected. This isn't normally a particularly high tyre wear circuit, but it looks as if it will be today. And after about 6 laps, the hard tyres are already on par with the softs. So as a result, the hard tyres will be the prime tyres today, and drivers will try to spend as much time on those as they possibly can. The C5, C4 and C3 tyres are the ones that we have available, and the top 10 are expected to pit around about lap 10 and then do 2 stops on the C5s. That's according to David Fidok, of course, and we will be going to the race soon, so we'll be able to see how it actually works in effect. I reckon it's going to mean that the undercut is quite big, and we saw that in the Super Lights race as well. The reason it didn't always work out in the Super Lights race is because sometimes you made the stop early and then came out directly into traffic, and that's the disadvantage of pitting early, because the field's still bunched up and you've got to work your way through so many more cars than you would otherwise have done. It's all a bit of a balancing act, and I think that this is going to be down to, well, it's never down to luck in racing, but it's going to be down to a little bit of fortune, accompanied by a heck of a lot of skill and foresight as well. You've got to be thinking forwards in seeing what you're going to do next.
Funny you say that you got that strategy from Fidok. Usually he's the one guy who goes for the really weird strategy that works.
That is a good point.
If I was one of the other drivers, I'd be listening, because it always seems to work. We always think he's doing something really stupid, and he pulls it off. He makes it work every single time. But it's a weird one. I don't remember this as being as big a tyre wear track as it seems to be. Obviously, 2-stop going to be the way forward, I think. Even 3 might work if you get really, really lucky with where you'd come out in traffic. It could work. I know it's a stretch, but let's see. regardless, it's going to be exciting. The first few laps are going to be just amazing to watch. You know, usually we complain about a DRS train, but Danahan takes a spin. Hopefully he doesn't do that in the race. We will see DRS trains, but with the straight being so long here, we might actually get to see some overtakes instead of sort of just sitting behind each other, looking away and wait for pit stops. And then equally we could see some incidents. So let's wait and see. I think it's going to be an exciting.
This is a track where you can sometimes get DRS trains forming, but they only really tend to last for a few corners, and then you reach the straight and all of a sudden the driver behind gets a big enough advantage to go through. Sometimes you get a bit of a back and forth slipstreaming race where drivers will go through, and then of course the driver behind will have the slipstream and the DRS, and they might just get straight back past you again before you can break that toe. It almost becomes like the Indy 500 at that point, but we'll have to see if that does actually develop. A lot of the time Baku is a strange one because what you see on paper is very different from what you see on the circuit. It's such a unique circuit that it really lends itself to drama and chaos and unpredictability. And unpredictability is what we really want in races. You can have all the overtakes in the world, but the race could still be boring if it's predictable. But here, there's no such thing as that, and nothing exemplifies that more than the first lap, so hold on to your seats because I think we're about to see something quite spectacular here. I don't know if it's going to be special, I don't know if it's going to be farcical, I don't quite know what's going to happen, but something will, because as Murray Walker said, it usually does. So here comes the race session now. The warm-up has seen the checkered flag. There are no drivers on the circuit right now. And now that the session has ticked through, we're going to be seeing the cars teleporting their way onto the grid. Rather unrealistically, but that's the beauty of sim racing. We don't have to wait for the parade laps or anything like that. There's no waiting around on the grid. No grid walk, unfortunately. I'd love to do a grid walk at some stage. I think that would be so cool, but obviously sim racing, you don't really have a need for that. But we will get to see the cars in all their glory on the formation lap before they begin to race in anger. The top 10 cars will all be starting on the soft compounded tyre because there weren't any drivers out there on any other compounded tyre in qualifying, and the top 10 have to start on the compounded tyre that they qualified on. We can't quite see all of the tyre compounds just yet because not all of them have been selected, but as soon as they are all out on the circuit, we'll have that to talk you through. And then, of course, we will be underway for 51 laps of racing. There you see the cars all forming up on the grid in 2x2 lines. And the lights go out, so we are underway on the formation lap. Let's take a look at the grid order once again. I don't believe there were any penalties, at least not for any of the front runners, so it should be the same as qualifying. Jake Dennehan is first, Owen McGorgy is second, then you have the two Maguires with Luke ahead of Adam. Both of them absolutely inseparable, as suggested by the fact they are identical twins. Jan Granqvist P5, then Zolk Schukes, Tom Stevens and Stefan Roth. 2021 champion Stefan Roth there in 8th position. Then Robin Panzer, Thomas Schwock, Chris Shepard and Daniel Stepkowski. P13 now, and this is an important part of the grid strategically. Jukka-Pekka Lali and Florian Gaia. David Fidok, 2-times champion himself, will be starting from P15, which is the last point scoring position. And Moritz Kropp is P16. Dylan Platt, Fabian Schiertzig, Alex LaRue and 2015 champion Philip Pushke round out the top 20. Here we go again, Jeffrey Fournier P21, Silver Joffa P22, then George Giogalis and Yanis Fulburn, who failed to set a qualifying lap. I'm just having a look at the penalties. We do have 2 penalties for drivers, but they are both drivers who aren't here, so it is completely irrelevant, and they will have to serve their penalties when they return to Super League. But for the time being, that's a lot. 24 drivers on the grid, and we prepare to start the Azerbaijan Grand Prix of 2023. Ryan, 24 cars, they're all looking racy. And here we go, we're ready to start nearly.
Yep, then we're approaching the final section and we still haven't made a prediction.
Sorry. Got something stuck in my throat. You go first.
Denahan, gotta get it in quick. I think across the race he got it.
Okay, I think I got it out. Yeah, I'm going to say Denahan too. Sorry if that's boring, but I
It's
reckon he's
boring,
got it.
come on, you can't pick the same.
Yes, I can, and I just did.
Interestingly, Chris Shepherd appears as on soft, according to the time tower, which is an interesting call. But anyway, sorry, let's get ready for the start of the race.
Indeed. Looks like the top driver on mediums is Daniel Stokowski, and the top driver on hards is Filip Pushke. So we will keep those in mind and see how they do throughout the course of the race. Sorry if I didn't mute myself before coughing there. My mute button's being a bit weird, but anyway. Here comes Yannis Vorburn, who will round out the grid on hard tyres, and he should make progress today. He's a much better driver than his grid position indicates. We've got 3 rookies on the grid as well. Well, more than that, but we have 3 debutants. Owen McGorgy starting second, has only 3 races under his belt. This is his 4th. And here come the lights, and when they go out, we'll be underway at Baku, and it's go! So Jake Denahan will lead us away from the racing line and into turn 1. McGorgy still on the inside, but he now has to back out of it, and Denahan leads the way. We've got both of the Maguires in 3rd and 4th position. Luke ahead of Adam for the time being, and there's Grankvist coming through, nearly getting squeezed into the wall, running in 5th place and challenging for 4th. No DRS just yet. I thought I saw a spinner in the background, and I did, so that's Vulburn already pointing backwards, I'm afraid to say. There is Luke Maguire now challenging for 2nd position on Owen McGorgy as they head towards the 2nd sector of the course. Chris Shepherd's running 10th. He's side by side with Stefan Rural. Very nearly contact there, who had a little bit of bumping and banging, but no cars heavily into the wall, and luckily no wings going flying just yet. This is a difficult section of the track. It begins to really narrow out at this point, and the drivers have to decide their positions quite sharpish, otherwise they're going to find themselves spearing into the barriers. Up through the castle we go. The top 6 were clean at least, and I think that they are all going to be okay for the time being. So Ryan, Jake Denahan leads us around the first half lap.
Yeah, going well for my prediction so far. Fairly clean start considering it's a street circuit. Obviously we had 1 person missing the wing and 1 person backwards, but let's see what happens going into turn 1. No DRS this time round, but there's going to be a decent slipstream. He's only 4/10 off the back of Denahan, is McGorgy. We've had a few movements up and down the grid. Flo Gaia dropped down a few positions.
Sorry, Adam Maguire jumped the start. So Adam Maguire from 5th position is going to have to take at least a drive-through penalty here for that. It came up on the screen at the start, although I was a little distracted by everything that was going on. Here comes Owen McGorgy now, might be challenging for the lead. Slightly early coming out of the slipstream, but that is okay. The DRS will be active very shortly, and that is Tom Stevens getting up into 6th position in the race now. There's Alex Laho fighting with David Fidok over P14. DRS will be active as of the next lap around. Brief yellow flag, but I didn't see anyone going off visibly, that is. There are the leaders once again, with McGorgy right on the back of Jake Denahan. I wouldn't be surprised if there are overtakes for the lead as soon as the DRS is active. And it could be that we see drivers coming through from 3rd or 4th. Now here's a replay of, that's a faulty replay I'm afraid to say, but we'll get you a replay of what we were intending to as soon as we can. This is Yannis Vorburn, so he went for a spin at the start. We'll see if he gets crowded or something like that. He's side by side. There's contact. And that looks to be one of the Epic racing cars, so that would have been Jeffrey Fournier having... no, it's not one of the Epic racing cars, sorry, that is Filip Pushke, who's come into the pits. So Pushke getting involved in it, and appears to be, well, I don't know if he's out of the race per se, but he's making a very long pit stop, and he'll be out of contention for sure.
So, am I right in saying this is 2 weeks on the trot? Maguire's got a penalty now in the race?
Yes, of course. He got that late penalty for something to do with the pit lane last time out, and
yeah, speeding in the pit lane.
Somehow still came through to win the race.
But difference this time is he's done it right at the start, where when he, inevitably goes to the pits, he's going to end up going backwards and getting stuck in a lot of traffic. Whereas last time he had, a good gap behind where he could come out in some clean air. We see Vak making up a place there. So let's see. He's going to extend it as late as he possibly can. He needs a bigger gap as he can get, really, to the cars behind, so he doesn't lose too many places. I think at this point in time he'll probably lose every single possible place.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth it, because I think that he's still going to have to pit early enough that he'll drop right to the back. And I think that staying out is just making sure that he's getting stuck in traffic for longer. Of course, he does also have the DRS, which he wouldn't have got if he'd come straight into the pits. But honestly, when I get a penalty, I tend to like to serve it straight away. There's George Giorgales in his very first Super League race, not running last just yet, because of course Philip Pischke has exited the pits behind him. And George has at least kept the start clean. He's not the fastest driver on track just yet, but he's also far from the most experienced, so he will gain time as he gets more laps on track, I'm sure. There's Jan Grankvist, who is a bit more experienced, drove his first Super League race with us in 2019 and has been racing with us ever since, on and off in Super League, although he has done Super Lights and FS1 and other series such as that, and this year makes the step up to Super League full time. And he will get the DRS, so this is when it becomes really, really effective. There's about 0.5 of a second, so half a second between the leaders this time around. Watch as the gap comes down, and Tom Stevens comes, and that's Maguire in the pits. So Maguire comes into the pits, Stevens is up to 5th. They're side by side further back, nearly contact between Shepherd and Wide. Oh, very nearly into the wall goes Zolt Shooks. So Zolt Shooks there misjudging the corner after a hard-fought battle with Chris Shepherd, and he not just loses out that place, but also won to Stefan Rohr as well.
Thankfully he's got his teammate behind him though to sort of cover him off this time. DRS straight's probably not quite long enough anyway to get a move done this time round. But good little charge from Tomasz Vak, up into the top 6 already. That's, decent from him. Obviously Maguire going in for the penalties help there as well. Let's see what happens here. There's no actual... Oh, there was a tiny bit of contact.
I think he'll feel a bit grieved about that, because Shepherd did seem to move over and didn't really give him much room. And then, of course, Shepherd ran wide into the corner anyway, so even if Zolt had turned in, he wouldn't have been able to make the corner. Now here is Jake Dennehan leading the race by less than half a second from Owen McGorgy. Ed Hunter in the chat is telling us that he expects Dennehan to break away sooner or later, and McGorgy to act as a buffer to hold up Luke Maguire, although it will probably last a little while, I'd say. And I wouldn't be surprised if Owen really can throw a spanner in the works by getting through early here with the DRS. It all depends on the exits he can get from the corner, and of course how much time Dennehan can make up in the castle section. Here is Jaakko-Pekka Laulu, P12 currently. It's not like Formula 1 where only the top 10 score points. He is in a point-scoring position. The biggest gainer in these early stages appears to be Fabian Schiertzig there, up 5 positions from P13. Very nice graphic. I always like to look at this one. There is Rohr. So Rohr fighting with Shepherd there and actually holding him off down into turn 1 for 7th position.
Yeah, pretty steady-ish start so far. Everyone's sort of getting into the rhythms now. We're starting to see some packs forming. Went yellow for a little bit there in Sector 1, not sure what's happened.
Being told Volburn, something's happened to
Volburn's
Volburn again. Now he was right behind Maguire, who'd come out of the pits in front of him. Let's see. Oh, and that is a Green Stripes car going for a spin, straight into the path of the helpless Janis Volburn. Now Silver Joffert seems to have triggered that all off. He seems to have got away with minimal damage, and the rear end just snapped away from him as he turned into the corner. And there's the contact, and that'll definitely do some suspension damage to Silver's car. So his debut in Super League not starting off particularly cleanly, I'm afraid to say.
Didn't today get any worse for Janis Volburn, do you think?
No, I'm not sure. Well, I'd have to look back at the first lap incident again, but that one certainly wasn't his fault, was it?
No, and I mean, obviously setting off from the back of the grid anyway has been, not been the greatest of evenings for him.
And
I see
actually,
Stefan Ruol, DNF!
ah,
DNF from Stefan Ruol. What's happened there? Fingers crossed we can get a replay of this one. That's.
he was
Let's
just
see if it was.
fighting with Chris Shepherd, although it seems to have been a disconnection and nothing to do with Chris himself. So that is our first official retirement. That is providing, of course, he can't reconnect. We see drivers doing that sometimes. There's Olchuk's passing. Is that Chris Shepherd? He's fighting again. These two, of course, having history down at turn 1, and they nearly came to blows once again. Maguire making up his first position since his pit stop, except, of course, Stefan Roth, who retired. Tell you what, the leaders got very close that time. We got the top 3 within a second across the start-finish line. And all 3 of them will have DRS. The DRS train extending back to 4th place. Chirtic losing a couple of places. Fidok up to P12, he started 15th, so that's 3 positions for David already. And even more for Alex Lahou, I think. Now here's a replay, and this will be Stefan Roth, and he hit the wall, did he? So that's not a straight, something's gone wrong here, because he's gone straight back into the wall again, and then he disappears. So is that potentially a hardware failure of some sort? Stefan, not usually the kind to have an accident all by himself, but yeah, that's totally a hardware failure. Maybe a pop-up on his screen or something like that. Whatever the case, doesn't appear to have been a driving error for Stefan Roth, and he's gone hard into the wall and out of this Grand Prix.
That's a very disappointing end for Stefan Roth, not quite having the same sort of luck as he did in that 2021 season. Yeah, really not the start as we see Silver Jofflet going for a spin there. Clearly had some damage from that incident earlier on. But Dennehan doing a good job managing this race so far. Magorgi's close, but not close enough. But at the same time, he'll be saving his tyres, sitting there just plucking away. As we see doing a switch at Adonis.
Indeed. I'm afraid Yannis Vorburn's become a second official retirement, although no surprise there. He's been in the wars today, to put it mildly. Now, Maguire has just got past both of the Marud Auto Concepts cars here, but they're not taking it lying down. Look at that, swerving all over his tail. And getting feisty down towards turn 3. They're bringing Jeffrey Fournier in at close attendance. Now into the braking zone for the turn. And once again, the leaders, the top 3, were all separated by less than a second across the start-finish line. So what I said didn't tend to happen here, the DRS train lasting more than 1 lap, is happening in these early stages. Now here is Maguire's move, and he's going to, whoa, thread the needle there down the straight. That was a really brave and bold move. Oh, that's so brave. You can even see in the rear-facing camera just how close he got to the front wheel of both of those cars. And if either of them had been a little more careless, they'd have all been spinning off into the barriers. We've seen it happen down there before. There was a Formula 2 race a couple of years ago where every time there was a safety car restart, there was some kind of kerfuffle into turn 1. And this time, Maguire just about avoids the same fate due to some heads-up driving from both Marud Auto Concepts cars.
I'm not gonna lie, if I was those mode cars, I would have boxed him in. Clearly, I have a bit less respect than Flo and Dylan. But that was a fantastic move, really made for a good replay there. Kind of wish we'd seen it live, it would have went mental.
Absolutely, I'd have lost my voice already.
Yeah, only 8 laps in for 51. Let's see Vac in the pits.
Yeah,
making an early pit
stops are expected here.
Yeah, one of our soft runners. Undercut we predict will be strong, so let's see. Obviously, undercut sounds great, but he could be, as we saw a move there almost, could be sacrificing a little bit in the long run. But let's see. It's going to be pit stop window time.
And he will be holding on to those tyres like an expensive thing. He is going to be on hard tyres for the rest of the race, I'm sure. Not even thinking about going back onto softs again. Those are out of the way and done. Now here is David Fidok on the tail of Alex Lahou. 8 laps in, and surely everyone is going to be pitting in the next 3, 4, 5 laps. That is everyone who started on soft tyres, of course. The drivers on hards will be quite content, I'm afraid, for a good amount of time. Here's Luke Maguire. sandwiched between a couple of cars at the front end of the order, heading towards the finish. I've just been messaged by Stefan Rohr, actually. Let me check this to see if it's broadcastable. He says, my game crashed, had a screen freeze for 10 seconds and then it shut down. Certainly looked that way. That is horrible luck for Stefan Rohr, and that is why his race has come to an end so early at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And we have 22 cars running now, with 20 of them still on the lead lap.
He'll be back again to fight, I'm sure, next round. I mean, super quick driver, so he's still got one of the 12 races to bring it back for the rest of the season, as we see more people starting to pit now. The pit window has definitely started, as we see Panzer making a move on Shepherd. Will he retaliate? Thinks better of it. See what he can get done down the DRS straight here.
Zolt medium tyres there. That's unexpected, to be honest.
You think?
I was told, oh, long pit stop. Yeah, maybe some short damage repairs there, or maybe he didn't trigger the pit request early enough. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see mediums from drivers after maybe lap 10 today.
We're going to see 2-3 stops.
Yeah. I mean, that could well be a 3-stop strategy there, and 3 stops obviously a lot more doable than 1 stop, and probably more comfortable than a 2-stop as well. The trouble is, of course, you end up in traffic and you might lose some positions that you could otherwise gain. But yeah, I mean, if this race was one that was done in solo mode, I'm sure everyone would be going for 3 stops. Here's Luke Maguire now, trying to set up Owen McGorgy. They have both dropped back on this lap. Looks like Denahan started to build a buffer. And I reckon that might have been a mistake from McGorgy at some point, because they did seem to lose about a second or two on that lap. And it wasn't just him, the 2 behind him got backed up. Maybe their tyres are going off. We'll see if McGorgy decides to pit this time. Down the straight. And it looks as if Jan Grankvist is diving in, so he is wanting to get out of this mess. Here comes Luke Maguire to the outside and sweeps past Owen McGorgy. A very good move in turn 1.
Wow.
And it looks as if he had it covered off as well. So we have Denahan first, Maguire second. Oh, very close in the pits there. As also in was Tom Stevens. Chris Shepherd comes in behind them. The pit lane getting rather busy. And Adam Maguire is in again, so he's already had his drive-through penalty, and this is a scheduled pit stop on lap 10.
Yeah, right move from Granquist, I think. You can see McGorgy and Maguire fighting, as we're going to see here again. They're just losing time, not only to Denahan, but Granquist is going to have the undercut and some more if they keep fighting like this.
And this is a really narrow section. Come on, you've got to decide who goes first here. And it's Luke Maguire, who maintains that second position. Up through the castle we go. They were losing time hand over fist in that one. They were only 2.7 seconds back last time I looked, and now they're 4 seconds back. There's a replay of them getting very close up against the barrier, nearly coming together. And here's a replay of slightly earlier in the lap, where they did the same thing, and there was a little tyre rub maybe, and they rub again. They definitely touched at least once in that, and then out towards the second sector. Beautiful driving between the two, although not hugely practical, because they've definitely lost time to Jake Denahan, and Jake has begun to get away as he did in Bahrain.
Is
now he'll
gonna hit the box.
Stay out, I think.
No, stays out another lap. One of these guys has got to.
Yeah, box opposite, surely. Oh, they both come in.
Both committing. Oh my word. I think McGorgy had to, he tried to go to the inside thinking that Maguire would stay out, but didn't.
Look at him weaving in the pits. Sorry, could that be discontent maybe? Was Luke showing Owen that he wasn't happy? Oh, and there's a crash, and Fabian Schittzig's involved. And there's heavy damage for Jeffrey Fournier. So Fournier might be out here. He's returning to the pits, and Fabian Schittzig will surely be out. He might have made it back into the pit lane there, but I don't know. And Grankvist is in again, so Jan.
Range?
Yeah.
Maybe I was going to say maybe a penalty, but it looks like he stopped.
Or, yeah, did he get involved in the kerfuffle we just saw, maybe?
They could have collected the wings. I think the biggest benefactors out of that were Vac and Stevens managing to get through cleanly. Let's hopefully get a replay here. So we see Moritz Krop getting it all wrong into the final sector. Oh my word.
Yeah, Grankvist was definitely involved.
That was got to be one of the worst crashes we've seen in Super League.
That was absolutely horrendous there.
Wow.
With Moritz Krop losing it in a very dangerous part of the circuit. And thank goodness that sim racing is not the same as real life. That would have been a hugely high G accident. The first car through was possibly a Maruda Auto Concepts car, and they got very lucky. And there's Jeffrey Fournier flipping over, doing a full barrel roll, and he will be lucky to continue in this race because his car will be very damaged, and he's got suspension damage, which is difficult to repair in the pits. Here is McGorgy pitting right behind Luke Maguire, very nearly touching him. I wonder if he initially intended to go to... Oh, and they're so close on pit entry as well. And there is the weaving, potentially to show discontent, potentially just to, I don't know, well, maybe it's quite the opposite. Maybe he was saying, thank you for that race, this is great. Now there is Alex Lahou temporarily taking the lead of the race from David Feidock. Will he get to lead a lap, or is he pitting at the end of this one? Lahou takes the lead from David Feidock, who will officially be scored as the race leader of that last time around. And they will fight again going down into that next braking zone. There's Daniel Stepkowski coming out of the pits. And the reason that those guys were leading is because all of the leaders have come in now. So Jake Dennehan pitted that last time around. He's come out 6 seconds ahead of... no, sorry, that's not aggregate time. So that's... he's come out about 3 or 4 seconds ahead of Luke Maguire. That's about what we would have expected. And then Ian McGorgy just behind Luke Maguire and still in a fight with him. That one's going to go on for a little bit longer. Tom Stevens might be 4th place in the theoretical order, because unfortunately Jan Gragfist was caught out in that accident that we just saw. He had absolutely nowhere to go, and he will be vastly held back in this race. And that's the trouble. You pit early, and yes, you have the advantage on tyres, but then of course you're in traffic, and not only do you have to overtake people, but you have to avoid the accidents that could happen. So Jan losing out through no fault of his own in that one, and that's just how this racing works sometimes.
A real shame for him, but you know, he's still P16. There's still a good chance of him getting points. You know, at Baku you just got to finish. Like any street circuit, you know, it's a survival. But wow, that was quite something as we see Alex Lahou going to the pits.
So Feidock has scored as the leader for another lap. He got back past Lahou, and then Alex came in. And I mean, you were talking about Feidock's unorthodox strategies earlier. He started on the medium tyres, and he will be running those as long as he dares. Here is Chris Shepherd, and he will now move up to P10, judging by Lahou dropping down the order. And it looks as if we have some more retirements as a result of that accident we saw. We've got Philip Pushke out and Moritz Krop. Now Schitzik has bolted on a new wheel and continued. That's a rare sight, but you can do it. And I've seen it a couple of times in Super League, but surely his car is still handling pretty badly. And unfortunately, both of the Green Stripes cars right at the bottom of the order at this point in time. I didn't quite see how Pushke got involved, but there were 4 drivers involved in that, so he could well have got caught out somewhere. Or he may have already been in retirement, I didn't see.
Well, looks like Dennehan is getting close to the back of Feidock. Obviously you have the DRS down the back straight. I think luckily for Jake, Lahou pitted, so that's 1 less car to worry about really. He's 2/10 away coming into the final sector. We'll get this done easy. Feidock might even pit. But like I say, he's known for his strange strategies. We see Maguire DNF.
Adam Maguire's out of the race, yeah. I was wondering which Maguire it was, but Adam is out. So after his horrible start to the race, and there is Jake Dennehan retaking the lead down the straight. He's got the DRS. Feidock's very fast in a straight line, but it looks as if Dennehan's going to get it done. But what horrible luck from Adam Maguire there, who won last time out in Australia. And this time the feat cannot be repeated. You know what I'm trying to say. And for whatever reason, he has been demoted to a spectator. We don't quite know whether that was an accident just yet, or hardware failure, such as in the case of Stefan Royal, or potentially a straight disconnection. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Now here comes Robin Panter up to P6. He passes Dylan Platt and nearly drives him into the wall to thank him. Platt gets away with it. He is still yet to pit himself actually on those medium tyres. And now we see a replay, and this will be of Adam Maguire, and he's already had an accident. So Maguire, and he pulls off and he retires from the race by his own accord, obviously deciding that he could not have driven that car back to the pit lane and it wouldn't have been worth it. To be honest, I don't blame him for having enough in this one. This will be at the castle section. Bit of a freeze on my screen. There we go. We see it again, and there it is. It's a Charles Leclerc, Robert Kubica 2019 style accident where he just clips the inside wall slightly, runs wide, and then the wall on the outside is waiting to pounce. Does he clip the inside wall, or is it just the curb? I think it's just the curb actually, which bounces him straight into the barrier. Not the biggest impact, but then again, with the amount that he's been through in this race so far, I don't blame him for deciding that he's had enough.
Insert I am stupid meme here.
Indeed.
But yeah, a bad day gets worse for Maguire. You know, he's had a few mistakes in the last couple. Got away with it in Melbourne, but today not going in his favour.
And Luke Maguire retakes second, the gap for the lead 2.4. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay, go ahead. You know when you lose your train of thought? That's what's gone through.
Sorry.
Right I'll tell you what though, it's been a good start.
McGorky's going to get back on the podium here. There he goes. So Luke has actually been gaining quite a lot on Jake Danahan here. He was 4 seconds back, over 4 seconds back when he came out of the pits. And it hasn't been that long, so definitely an improvement. He was quite quick early in his first stint too. It was just towards the end of the stint where he started to drop off, partly because he was fighting with McGorky so hard, but now McGorky's at risk of losing the DRS, so he might not have to worry about that for much longer. And maybe he'll start to reel in Jake Danahan again. I must say, from a completely impartial point of view, I hope he does, because then we'll get a battle which could last even longer in this race, and we really want to see the top two together at the end, because that's when it really starts to matter, when it really starts to get exciting. We had an exciting finish last time with Adam Maguire getting that penalty and then fighting his way back. He was so much faster than everyone else in the final stint of the Australian Grand Prix. Is Lalu being held up a little by Dylan Platt, who is yet to stop. Brief yellow flag with being told that Alex Lahu was recovering from something or other. Now here we are in the final sector of this particular lap, so Lalu is going to get a healthy dose of slipstream, and bouncing off the barrier nearly was Chris Shepherd just behind him.
I think he might have bounced off the barrier.
Yeah, he definitely touched it. Didn't wallop it necessarily. David Feiduck into the pits, someone else into the pits there. Dylan Platt comes in, so this is the lap for the medium runners. And Lalu around the outside. Sorry, he's up the inside there. That's Shepherd on the outside. And they touch. Well, they touched a little bit, and they're going to miss the corner, so they get stuck. And reversing back. Oh
no,
my goodness.
No, we don't like to see that.
Well, I tell you what, that was really good avoidance there from Fabian Schiertzig, who was the Green Stripes car coming through. And he was so lucky not to lose his wheel again. That would have been quite something. Here's a replay of the incident, and that's Chris Shepherd touching the barriers. And then it was a couple of corners later where they get locked up going into the right-angled left-hander and end up missing it completely. Do you remember in Formula One, I think it was 2019 maybe, where I think Daniel Ricciardo backed straight into Daniel Kvyat in the run-up area down there?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
One of the strangest accidents I've seen in real life.
This looked like a good move from Chris.
There it is.
And as they get to closer to the corner, it's like Lalu was coming over a little bit, maybe.
I'm going to watch it again. Goodness
so
me.
Close.
Yeah, hats off to Schiertzig. Very good.
Very good job. They were lucky to not make any contact with anybody there. But going back a little bit, as we see, that's what happened to Lahu. Losing his front and rear wing. Castle section's taken 2 victims now.
See, the trouble is, so Shepherd and Lalu, they were side by side for quite a long time. And it seems that they've forgotten that the rear of the car is wider than the front, because it was only when Lalu started to get up to that point on Shepard's car that his rear made contact with Shepard's front, and then they both went off. And they swap again, this time cleanly.
So, I'm going to go off topic a little bit here. We've also had the Red Archer car, George Giorgalis on his Super League debut is out as well. That brings us down to 17 runners.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, Jan Krankus, who was in 16th at the time after that incident, he's in the points. After all this, he is in the points.
And here is the accident for George Giorgalis. Bang! Oh, it's a sorry, never mind. My apologies to George. It was a straight disconnection. And that's a
strange.
Actually, if I was George here, I'd be trying my best to return to the race, because you can after a disconnection. And Baku is such a I mean, there's so much attrition here. We're only 17 laps in and we've got 17 cars remaining. So there you go. If you can rejoin this race and if you can continue to the finish, then you actually do stand a good chance of scoring a point or two on your GPVWC debut. And wouldn't that be something, especially at Baku? And that's a lapped car. Sorry, that's one of the green stripes cars being put a lap down there. That's Silver Joffert. I was really rooting for George Giorgalis. I could see that, I mean, clearly he's quite a long way off the pace, but then again, this is his first Super League race. He reminded me of myself, actually. Bit of a backmarker, have-a-go hero here at Baku. Just running around, waiting for people to drop out in front of him, and making up the numbers a little bit. But that is absolutely okay. There is Jukka-Pekka Lalu, still fighting with Chris Shepard, and once again, they swap places. These two are having quite a day. Here's the corner where they collided just a few laps ago. Still not giving each other that much room. Shepard sniffing the gearbox of Lalu's car, nearly taking chunks out of it. Down to turn 3 we go. DRS still open, and Lalu takes another shot. Please make the corner. They both do. Very good.
This is really good watch, actually, for P9 and 10. As we see a replay here, what of? Is Maguire on the back marker? Yes. Let's see if this back marker actually obeys blue flags. Kind of hard to get out of the way through this section anyway. Yeah,
Ed Hunter's just commented that Silver Joffert was being a little difficult for Luke Maguire there, but yeah, you say it is a difficult section of track to get out of the way.
You don't want to lift off through there, you'd lose the rear. So there's a sensible option for both, I think, there. But anyway, as you know, this is a prime example of why you never give up. You know, there's only 17 remaining in the race and we're not even halfway through yet. So that's why you always just gotta pluck on. But looking up and down the grid, the people in the best sort of positions to capitalise now, I'd say, is probably Platt and Gaia, teammates near each other. We see Final clip in the wall. They can work together, get their way up the grid, and then same sort of thing going on with RSR as well. Wack and Stepkowski, they're a little bit off the back of Stevens, but they can just slipstream each other, sort of do what Lalu and Shepard have been doing, but without the aggression. It's really Chris go back down the inside. Great.
He's going to take advantage of it straight away, isn't he? And actually, as we were just riding on board with David Feidock, I should correct myself from a previous race. You saw 3 names there, Victoria, Amy and Lewis. I said previously that Amy was his wife's name and then Victoria and Lewis are his children. Turns out they're all his children, so my apologies for that. But there you go. And of course the other name there is David, so you've got the whole family there. And his wife will be watching at home and cheering on her husband David Feidock. So here is Owen McCorkey there running 3rd position. And
it looks like George Giorgalis has rejoined the race.
Just as I said he should. Very nice. Yes, come on, George.
Good effort. Good effort.
Not gonna beat anyone on the road, but if he can beat people who drop out, he can still score points here.
I mean, exactly. Look at how many we've dropped and we're not even halfway through. So there's a really good chance if he just keeps it on the black stuff
Yeah, just needs 3 more dropouts here with, so we've already had Alex Lahu, he just needs 3 more after that and he will be in the points. Flydock up to P10, he could get P9 this time around because Shepherd is clearly not getting away from Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Oh, here we go, down towards start-finish straight.
So impressive watching them go through that final couple of corners, especially when they're chasing each other.
McGorgy apparently is right on the back of Luke Maguire as well. We might have a look at that after this, but there goes David Flydock. Straight through into 9th position, passing Chris Shepherd. Those two have been racing for a good few years now. They know each other very well, and their differing driving styles. To be honest, I say differing driving styles. They actually remind me of each other when you see them racing from on board, but I think the main difference between the two is that they tend to take quite different strategies in races. Here's Lally, and he seemed to be dropping back, I'm afraid to say, but it would be good to see him fighting with Shepherd once again, because like I said, those two have been at each other's throats, seemingly. Some laps a bit more so than others. Ryan, your guys are together. What would you be saying to these guys if they could hear you right now?
I would be saying keep your head down and work together. There's no point in these two scrapping, and they are, I'm sure, well aware of that. They just got to utilise each other's DRS to catch up to Stevens. You know, it looks like Tom's just outside of the DRS zone by a second, Panzar as well. So these guys are getting DRS, Stevens isn't getting any. If they can claw that gap, they're not far off the back of Panzar as well at that point then.
Finish straight once again. The gap across the line at less than 0.2 of a second, although it starts to extend in the braking zone for turn 1. And here's Daniel Stepkowski on the back of Tomasz Vok. Looks as if your guys are going to do a straight swap here.
Yep, exactly how it should be. Don't fight, don't do a Shepherd and Lalu. And just keep Tomasz in that DRS. And just go backwards and forwards every time. You'll see Granquist making his way back up, P14, that's a couple of points for him. And Zolchuk's in the pits as well, sorry, and Lalu in the pits as well. We're going to see the start of the second pit window here. It's going to be interesting. I'm surprised Vak hasn't gone in yet. He was our first pitter out of the top group the first time round. To see Granquist going for a move. Gets it done.
Tell you what, these guys have only done 15 laps. This could be a 3-stopper, couldn't it?
It could be. I think it's likely. You know, our broadcaster Szymon Frelik even predicted a 4-stop for some people. I mean, it's definitely going to happen for some of the people who've had incidents, but somebody might feel brave and try it. I'd be amazed. It'd be pretty impressive if they can make it work, but I'm going to say the majority might 3-stop at this rate.
Hasn't even been 15 laps, has it? So yeah, it looks as if 3-stoppers are going to be the order of the day. Well, this is interesting, isn't it? We haven't seen this at any point in the season so far, and I was not expecting it to start at Baku. Now this, I mean, you don't really have that many fast corners here, so it's probably the rear tyres that are limiting this circuit. And, well, I said that at Australia, and then my teammate corrected me and was like, nope, my fronts are hitting the cliff. But anyway, the rear tyres are definitely the ones I'd be concerned about here at Baku, and that provides an interesting situation in and of itself, which is that the balance of the car will be changing lap on lap. It won't be feeling the same at any point in the race. You'll have a car that's sticking to the road one lap, and then it'll be understeering, and then it'll gradually begin to get more oversteery as the rear tyres go off. And then all of a sudden, when they hit the cliff, you'll have no grip on the rear whatsoever, and the car will start to spin when you least expect it to. We have seen a few drivers swapping ends already today, and that's something you've got to be oh so careful of, especially when putting the power down out of these slow 90-degree corners. And then of course you've got the castle section here where you need all the grip you can get because it is so tight and there's no margin for error. There's the wall and there are the cars. Look at the gap or lack of it. Luke Maguire leading Owen McGorky by 0.7 of a second.
So looking at the race as it is now, especially teams championship wise, Nocturne are not having a great night. Edge sort of being carried again by Denahan. THR are going to be good scorers. RSR are going to be good scorers. It's proven some consistencies. Definitely going to be helping out. I mean, look at RSR, for example. You know, we're in P3 from just solid results from both drivers. A lot of my drivers have had top 3 finishes like THR and Nocturne have. Yet we're, ahead of Nocturne and knocking on the door of Edge and THR. So there's still time in the race though. Still another 27 laps to go. So.
Of course, Danos Demkovsky is 4th in the championship despite not having a top 4 finish yet.
Yeah.
Robin Panzer is in the pits as we speak, and that's from P5. That does make sense.
And first to jump and back again, not in. Even though, like I said before, he was the first person on the first stint.
And
obviously on the hards as well.
Making a move on Dylan Platt.
Dylan Platt again putting in a solid performance. Last time him and Fiduk were glued together, but seems like they've finally separated, at least for this stage of the race.
Adam, sorry, I've just seen so Ed Hunter in the YouTube chat saying Luke Maguire very close to the wall at the castle, and Adam Maguire says runs in the family. Well, at least you have some humour about it, my friend. Sorry that it didn't go your way, but anyway. He says no practice can blow myself, oh well. Well, you were doing well for no practice, but unfortunately it ended in the barriers, of course. Here we are, Owen McGorgy once again trying to set up Luke Maguire, who's a little further back on this lap, so not quite an overtaking opportunity, but he'll still have the DRS activated. Oh, he was in danger of dropping out of it, actually. He might just lose it here. Does he open the flap?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Only just, though. Down towards turn 1. The braking zone starts almost immediately as you hit that curb on the outside, just after the start-finish line. There are some cars you can drive here, like GT cars and things, where the braking zone starts before the timing line, which is quite annoying, because it means that if you want to get the best qualifying lap, you kind of got to run wide into turn 1 on your next lap. You can only really do one quali lap at a time.
Something I've noticed is obviously after the pit window, it looked like Luke Maguire brought the gap down to Denahan to about 2 seconds, but Denahan's just been plucking away, like really on his own, just flying. But then again, you look at the gap from P3 down to P4's Tom Stevens. Huge gap, really, when you think about it. This early on in the race, a good 13 seconds.
Yeah, but it does say a lot about Super League that this is the largest gap Jake Denahan has had today, and it's only about 4.5 seconds. So he has, he has been bringing it out, but it's still there or thereabouts. It's not as if the race is over just yet.
We shall see. It's looking good for our prediction, but we did go a little bit safe. But anyway, we've just seen Granquist go into the pits again as well. Not sure if that's a routine stop. I can't remember what tyre he put on when he had that incident. Maybe a soft Uzi Fournier in the pit as well. A lot of drivers on hards now, so we're in probably the medium runners pit window, but obviously the majority of the grid on hards, so we're going to see them run a little bit further into the race. Let's see who, maybe we can get some people extending really far and going on softs in the final stint. I assume majority will go medium.
Is the DRS flap opening once again on the back of Owen McGorgy's car? Very flash of yellow flag. You see that a lot at Baku as people run wide. Sometimes you get a spin, but those yellows tend to last a bit longer. And there you go. Yeah, Alex Lahosari points out in the YouTube chat that despite no practice, Adam Maguire set a 1:38 on his quali run, and that is very true. Adam may have struggled here today, but the times won't tell you that. He was 4th place in qualifying, and I think he was the fastest in practice, wasn't he? So, I mean, he didn't technically get no practice, but he got very little up until the official practice session, that is. may not have got any until the official practice session, which starts about 20 minutes before qualifying.
Yeah, no practice is a different definition in everybody's language. Depends who you're comparing yourself to. I mean, no practice to me would be like literally no practice, but to some people it's still hundreds of laps, with hundreds of laps less than they'd normally do.
It's one of the reasons I could never be a Super League driver. I just don't have the time to do hundreds of laps.
Oh, it's crazy. You know, they are the top level. If you want to stay at the top, you gotta practice. And as we pass the halfway stage in the race, it's looking quite calm after we had some choppy spells in the sort of end of the first third. Everybody's settling into a little bit of a rhythm. Vak and Sebkowski not really closing in on Tom Stevens. Tom doing a pretty good job considering where he qualified. He'd made up a few places, kept it smooth and kind of quiet, just running his own race. Panzer pitted recently and has only just come out behind Sebkowski and Vak as well, so maybe they'll do Tom Stevens a bit of a favour by holding him up. Let's see.
There he is, Luke Maguire, second position. 5 seconds is the gap for the lead now. That's the biggest gap that we've seen so far today. Of course, with the exception of the pit stages, but they don't really count. Robin Panzer, P7, catching Tomasz Vok as Stepkowski begins to get away. That's one of the reasons that RSR wanted to swap places here. Stepkowski does appear to be quicker. It's a bit of a turnaround from last season, isn't it? Tomasz was maybe a few tenths of a second faster than Daniel at this stage in the season. It was only towards the end that Stepkowski began to really show himself to be a potential team leader, in my opinion. And they're still very evenly matched, I'd say, but Daniel has just about had the edge, especially today.
Yeah, it's funny how that dynamic works. It was always Tomasz has been the sort of experienced one, and then Daniel's really found some form in the last season and kept it up into this season. Come on leaps and bounds from when he very first started. I remember him qualifying second last as we see back going to the pits. That's a bit earlier than I expected again from him, but he'll know what he's doing. It depends. He could have maybe held up Panzer, but they're not really in the same race as it stands at the moment. There was quite a big gap between them before Panzer had pitted, so making it easy for him there. Still got to get through Stepkowski though.
Indeed, out of the pits comes Tomasz Vok alongside, Chris Shepherd. That's very close.
That's not Chris Shepherd, is it? It's a back marker.
Dylan Platt.
Oh no, it's not Dylan, back marker, sorry, it's Dylan Platt.
Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, so that's Dylan Platt there. He's fighting for P9. And Vok maintains it. That's important for his race, for his strategy. Yeah, Shepherd's still fighting with Lalu, because of course he is. We don't even need to look at that to know that he's fighting with Lalu. He has been pretty much all day. Sometimes more literally than metaphorically. They've ended up nearly in fisticuffs in the runoff area. And here is Lalu again. This is a replay of him slipstreaming his way up the inside of Chris Shepherd's car. Once again, they leave each other room. They're on different tyres at this point in the race and they're still going at it.
Yeah, might as well have a bit of fun, as long as you don't have a crash.
Indeed. McGorgy still there with Luke Maguire. He always looks like he's close enough to have an attempt, but then never quite does. And there's the move for P5. So Daniel Stepkowski has passed. Sorry, I think was he attempting to pass Robin Panzer? Oh, Panzer's got through. My apologies. Yes, I'm getting a little distracted by some things. But yes, Robin Panzer. Ah, yeah, sorry, I've just seen the time from a couple of laps ago. Yeah, so Panzer through into 5th place now. just up ahead of Daniel Stepkowski. And one of the fastest drivers on the track right now actually is Robin Panzer, setting some pretty good laps.
New tyres, that's why. New
Indeed.
tyres and everybody around him pretty much.
I tell you who does have the fastest lap actually, it is Jan Granqvist.
Yeah. Yeah, again, he pitted around about the same time as Panzer as well, so both on fairly fresh rubber. As you see, Denhan's just extending that gap at the front to Maguire. Just seen it tick over 6 seconds. Again, the biggest we've seen it so far. Been an interesting race so far. Please, as well, everybody, type in the YouTube chat and let us know how you think the race is going. You can also tweet at us. As you see, I thought that McGorg was going to jump in the pits there. You can tweet us at GPVWC Sim Racing, hashtag GPVWC, hashtag SL1. Let us know your thoughts. Hopefully get a read some out on stream. The Granqvist chasing down, is that Shepherd? Shepherd's already put up a pretty big fight with Lalu, his teammate, so let's see what he's like to the other Super Venturi car.
Okay, Jan Granqvist, P13. Chris Shepherd, P12. Down the start-finish straight once again. Sorry, they're heading towards the start-finish straight once again. I'm watching the YouTube stream, which is a little bit behind.
Yeah, it was a bit of tape delay. Usually leave the YouTube chat open, but don't watch the stream. You see him in the slipstream. DRS wide open, got it done really early. Nice and easy for him there.
We've got 5.5 seconds separating the top two now. There is Jake Dennehan, who we haven't seen much of since the first maybe 10 laps of this race. That was when Maguire and McGorgy really started to fight and drop back. And they're still fighting and still dropping back, I'm afraid to say. But like I said earlier, the race is still far from over. It's starting to get to that stage, starting to get a little bit worrying, but then again, remember how we thought Dennehan was going to run away with it at Australia after Adam Maguire's penalty, and then he didn't even end up finishing in the top two. Jake ended up dropping back, Maguire went on a charge, and talking of Maguire, here's Luke into the pits now. So Luke in from second place, McGorgy is freed, and unlike before, they're not both coming in on the same lap. McGorgy will probably come in next lap in reaction to cover off that undercut from Luke Maguire, but yeah, they're not
going to be cars to the finish there, I think.
Yeah, 21 laps difficult, but I mean, it's doable, isn't it? Because you've got lighter fuel now.
Sector 2 there for a little bit, not sure what happened there. Oh, Granqvist DNF!
Oh no! Well, we saw Jan was involved in that collision earlier on. He lost his front wing after the flipping car of Jeffrey Fournier flew right into his face. But unfortunately, it's Jan who has retired from this race now. There was probably another incident in there somewhere, maybe a disconnection. We were talking about the attrition earlier on. It's been a little while since we've had a retirement, but now, of course, Jan Granqvist adds to our list. 17 cars remaining now. I think there's 14 on the lead lap. And here's a replay, and he's already lost his front wing by that point. And then in trying to get his car back to the pits, he hasn't made it. He's gone up the escape road. So where did he lose his front wing? Probably the castle section?
I would assume so. If we get a replay here, let's have a look. Does he hit the inside?
It's just like
he
Maguire.
does. I think he actually hit the inside that there instead of just curb.
Just like Maguire and Alex Lahoe, and there it is.
Oh, no.
It's the curb again.
Yeah, just the curb. It's very aggressive, that curb. It absolutely shakes the car to bits. But we're going to see Fabian Schwitzer go from having, what, 1 or 2 missing wheels into the points?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Unbelievable. Yeah, running 15th after being 3 wheels on his wagon. And I tell you what, green stripes are pretty much guaranteed of a point here, so long as they both finish this race. Of course, the only other driver who could take it off him is George Georgalis, but he's 6 laps down now. And as Daniel Slepkowski pits. So really, the green stripes cars would have to DNF to be denied a point here. And that's important for that team who have been in and out of Super League the last few years due to the relegation/promotion system. They only have 1 point to their name so far, which was scored by Fabian Schitzik in the last race. By the way, Holland Racing Team are the only team not to have scored a point so far this year, and they are currently running with Owen McGorgy in 4th position, so that would be a very strong result.
Panzer past McGorgy?
Oh!
It's a good undercut from Panzer.
Sorry, you're absolutely right.
Some time there.
He wasn't even on my radar, you know?
Just been plucking away. I mean, we saw him pit earlier, but he's made some time there. He was with Tom Stevens, I believe. He was only like a couple of seconds ahead of Tom earlier on in the race, so he did a pretty good job.
Jake Dennehan now pits from the lead, but yeah, not only has Owen McGorgy lost time to Maguire, and he's about to make a move now, so he's coming straight back at Robin Panzer, who jumped him in the pit stages, and clearly it's not quite as straightforward as that made it seem, but Owen McGorgy is back through to 3rd position now. Dennehan exits the pits. The gap is about 4 seconds, so it's come down by about 2 seconds in all of that. The undercut giving Maguire some time, but it's still a relatively comfortable lead. Seems to come down a bit more as his tyres get up to speed. We'll have to see what that is towards the end of the lap,
Maguire's
because that
had
will
the
be
undercut
more.
as well.
Yeah, that's true. McGorgy now doesn't have the DRS, so he's vulnerable to Panzer once again. David Fidok's up to 5th because he is yet to stop for the 2nd time. To be honest, Fidok might still be on a 2-stop strategy here because of his medium tyres that he started on. Yeah, so these guys all have to pit the same number of times, don't they? Fidok could be on for a good result here. I don't think 5th necessarily, because he's got some very strong drivers behind him who should be able to come through. But, 8th or 9th is definitely doable for David Fidok here. Considering he started 15th, I'm sure he'd be happy with that.
I mean, unfortunately for him, he's got, Stevens directly behind him, and then Shuksvak and Stepkowski are, they're not close, but they'll be knocking on the door soon, so we'll drop probably closer at the back end of the top 10. But that's still a good effort, we said at the start, he always chooses a weird strategy and did it again today. And it seems like it's working decently well.
Agreed. Here's Tom Stevens now on the back of David Fidok. And this is a move I said was going to happen. I think it's going to happen relatively soon here. Fidok, to be honest, Fidok will probably only stay up for another few laps because his hard tyres will last a while. And here he goes, back up the inside now, so Tomasz Wok.
One thing I will say is look at the gap from Stevens to Vak. It was like 7 seconds, but it's come down to around about 3.
Yeah.
Pretty good going.
That's very true, and actually Stevens is another driver who hasn't quite benefited from the pit stages as much as he could have done. You see how much time Panzer has gained over him in all of this. Like I said earlier, Panzer really wasn't on my radar. He has come out of nowhere just through playing his cards right and being consistent here.
I guess he's going to pit for mediums to the end in the next sort of 3-4 laps maybe.
Mediums to the end, still difficult from here.
Yeah, a little bit further. It's under 20 laps to go, so I think he could do it. You see Fournier in the pits as well.
Then again, we saw people only doing 13 or 14 lap stints on the hard tyres earlier, so I would still probably go for hards to the end, just to be safe.
I do wonder if that's because of wear or just pace in the tyre. You see it in real life sometimes. they do similar distances on tyres as you see Magog having a little sniff, but same distances on tyres just because they don't feel as good as I might have anticipated.
So do you think some drivers have maybe decided that the medium tyres just feel a bit better and can run long enough to be worth it?
Possibly.
Oh, that was close. Sorry, we just caught to Magorki as he was weaving all over the back of Maguire's car. It almost looked like something happened there, like Maguire may have moved over in the braking zone or something. Now here's a replay, so we're going to see if there was a little kerfuffle between the two of them. Magorki's got the DRS at this point, and it's a relatively long straight, not quite as long as the start-finish straight. He's gaining, he's got the overspeed, and then they break into the corner. Now that's what I saw. You can see he didn't quite know what he was going to do about Luke's car in front of him, but all seemed to be just about under control. There was no weaving or dangerous maneuvers or anything like that. It's just good hard racing at this point in time between those two drivers for second and third. You have a very experienced Super League driver versus an unproven Super League driver, very proven Super Lights driver. Magorki currently leading the Super Lights Championship with 3 wins out of 4. And providing he sticks with the Super Lights Championship, I think he's going to win it quite easily, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, it's a good effort that. I mean, his domination at Baku was just next level really in Super Lights, but
Agreed.
not quite Jake Danahan pace, so Jake's extending his gap even further. You know, it was down to 3 seconds, but we're already back up to 5. You know, the undercut clearly, I want to say worked, but you know, the gap's already been extended in the matter of like what, 4 laps, so you know, it didn't gain him a position, it just gained him a little bit of, let's see that going down the inside of
Frelik nearly locked up and went wide, but keeping it under control. Wisely not defending too hard from work. He knows they're on different strategies. I still think 8th or 9th is very possible for David Frelik in this race, especially considering the pit window won't be too far off. There's Lalu. Up and down race for him so far, and he is Super Venturi's only hope now that Jan Granqvist has dropped out of the running.
I'm really good for Jan. I really, really am. Super Venturi guys is a great group of guys, and
I'm surprised that Jan didn't try to get it back to the pits. He'd probably still be 14th if he had.
I know he could have. He really could have. Maybe even would he been ahead of Fournier?
Not quite.
Yeah, probably would. No, yeah, probably would have been around about there. But you know, it's up to him really. Does he value that point?
I mean, it's kind of his position to value those points. I mean, obviously none of these drivers are, well, most of these drivers aren't paid to do it necessarily, but they all take it very seriously, and they, you know, there are some drivers here who have been professional sim racers in some way or another.
Well, a lot of them were last season. You know, we had money on the line. They were all being paid for points.
And there is prize money, of course.
Is there this season as well?
Yeah.
Is there?
It's not very well advertised, I'm afraid to say, but there is prize money.
I should really know that. I'm a team owner. But anyway, going back to the topic of Jan, you know, we've all been there. We all race. Yeah, we can all get a little bit hot-headed. It happened to me in GT Challenge on Monday. Somebody, you know, put a push to pass on me, and I got a little bit aggressive trying to cut back across and chucked away my race. And it's, you know, it's the same as just like giving up basically. Like, you know, Granqvist has there. When you're racing and in the moment, it doesn't seem as significant as when you look back at it. As we see Lalu making a move on Flo having a decent run. Quite a clean, quiet race for him really. He's just
very quiet, yeah.
Just been getting along with it really. You know, he's usually quite out there with some of his moves, but needs to be pretty fair with whoever he's come across on track so far. And getting the points in for mode. Both the mode cars scoring points. Only one of, what's that? 4 teams are going to get double points finishes this time around, I believe.
Indeed, I know that sounds like quite a lot, but then again, that's only because the points go down to 15th here. Now this is, ooh, a chance. He took a look, maybe thought about it a bit, didn't he, Magorgi? To be honest,
He's had a few sniffs, hasn't he?
Sorry, Robin Panzer in the pits, yeah. There are some chances that I've seen where I think Magorgi could probably have passed Luke Maguire. I'm wondering whether he's biding his time, seeing if Maguire makes a mistake, because that's a much fairer and safer way to go through someone. But yeah, I thought Magorgi could have got through there, maybe.
It does look like Panzer's gone on mediums again there as well.
Fascinating.
Taking the mediums to the end.
Well, it kind of seemed to work for him before, didn't it?
Well, exactly. And, you know, he's going to absolutely fly now. Everyone around him's on a harder set of tyres, so we haven't seen many moves into this corner actually with this DRS straight.
Well,
definitely not as effective as into turn 1, but Sokowski gets it done on Jolt Hook.
Ed Hunter's pointed out that Dylan Platt has been fairly impressive. He's now in the pit lane.
That's his floor.
Indeed, Flo Gaia. So both of them, they came in quite quickly, didn't they? Maybe a double stack there. Anyway, Platt's out of the pits, he's fine. If they did double stack, it'll be Flo Gaia who gets the worst of it, which tends to be the case. He's one of the unluckiest drivers here. Less than 5 seconds for the lead again, although Denahan is threatening to extend it to 5 seconds, and there it is actually in that last sector, or sub-sector.
Again, Magorgi just having a little bit of a wiggle, a sniff. Just hanging on. I think he's going to undercut in the next sort of lap or two. Panzer getting past Baku, darting at the pits there, but yeah, I think Magorgi's just sitting patiently, and he'll do a massive undercut, I reckon. See Frelik in as well. Actually looks like he's on strategy instead of being miles off it.
And Tomasz Falk and Zolt Shukes also in the pits. I do think Viox gained a little bit through his unique strategy. That was very close to the back of Jolt Shukes' car. He's definitely jumped some folks in all of this, so very good race from David Fidok so far. And he recovers in 8th position. Might even be a top 7 on the line here.
Yeah, he certainly knows how to pull off a strategy, does David. He'd be, you know, we thought he was retired, but he's made a comeback this season. But when he does eventually retire, he'll make a cracking race engineer. You know, he seems, or strategist, I should say, really. He just makes the strangest of strategies work. Like every time, it's just every week. I think he just does it for fun, really. You could probably go faster on a normal strategy, but you just choose the odd ones.
7 places, as you see there, which is the joint most of anyone, along with Jeffrey Fournier, who's also up 7 places from his starting position. A few further back, of course, gaining places, mainly through attrition, but then again, that's how this works. You know, that's the beauty of sim racing. You don't necessarily have to be the fastest to be recognised, you just need to do a good job. And I'm most impressed with Fabian Schiertzig out of that bunch, because like we said, he was on 3 wheels earlier on. And continuing after that is not necessarily an easy feat, you've got to be motivated. Silver Jofford as well, only 16th on his debut. He could still score points today, as could George Giorgalis, despite being a whole 6 laps down on his nearest rival due to a disconnection earlier on. As well as, well, unfortunately he hasn't really picked up the pace at any point, but like I said earlier, that's okay. This is his Super League debut. Talking of pace, it's still not still young Grandfist who has the... Oh no, it is. as Zolt Schuster fights with David Feidock and gets him for P8. Yeah, still Jan Granqvist who holds the fastest lap at this point, despite being out of the race. He won't score any points for that.
No, well, nobody will score points. Oh yeah, because he's out of the race and he's out. Would have been out of the points as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody needs to steal that off him. Oh, as we literally see Jake Danahan.
Oh, there you
putting
go.
the new best lap time of the race.
Right as we're talking about it, it's almost as if he's listening to the commentary. And I tell you what, in all of that, he's up to like 6.7, 6.8 seconds in the lead. His last lap was 7/10 faster than Maguire, and it was Maguire's personal best lap. Wow. So Jake here, not only is he flying, but he's showing everyone else that he can fly faster than they can fly.
He's doing the job like him and Edge are an unstoppable force. It looks like his consistency's been fantastic so far. He's just there.
I really am starting to get flashbacks to Bahrain at this point. Don't know if it's quite going to be the same winning margin, but we've still got 11 laps left, so it could be.
I'm going to say, I think he's on track.
As Lally now is going to get Shepherd. God, these two, look at that. Lally once again passing Chris Shepherd. Down we go towards turn 1. I made it sound earlier as if these two really aren't getting on today, and as if they're, destined to collide or whatever, but the thing is, they've been racing each other for so long since that incident, and they've done it cleanly since then, so might well be behind them at this point. They'll just have this battle in the present on their mind. The car behind them, by the way, is one of the lapped Green Stripes cars, so they won't have to worry about them too much.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, them two guys both just need to bring some points.
And McGorgy's lost the DRS there, so McGorgy has dropped further than a second back behind Maguire.
A little bit strange, might have been a mistake in there somewhere. But like I was saying, sorry, Lalu and Shepherd, both the only drivers from both their respective teams that are going to be bringing home points, so they really need to both have a good result. Might have screwed their heads back on after that earlier incident. See McGorgy gliding through there. It was only a lap ago, it looked like he was going for a move. Anyway.
We saw earlier there was a sudden drop off of pace from McGorgy, wasn't there? I wonder if
yes,
that's...
there was. It was like 2-3 second gap last time.
I wonder if that's this point in the stint as well. I mean, so his last lap was only about 0.5 of a second slower than McGorgy. Oh, here's a move from Pansar on Stevens. Those mediums really coming alive from Pansar, but he needs to make sure he makes these moves before they start to go off. But yeah, what I was going to say about McGorgy is that his last lap was only about half a second slower than Maguire's, but it was the 0.5 second that mattered, 0.1 of a second that mattered, because it put him out of the DRS range for the first time in a while. And Pansar might not even need DRS now, because he's got so much more grip than Tom Stevens at this point that he is challenging at every point on the circuit, and it looks as if a move is imminent potentially.
Yeah, possibly. I think Vak might have pitted as well at some point. He might have missed that. He's ended up behind Stepkowski. We've got yellow in sector 3. Looks like maybe just somebody running wide.
I think, yeah, so Guyer and Fournier are both in the pits now.
I just get flashbacks every time I see yellow in sector 3. Even if it's somebody pitting. I just fear that it's another crash like we saw earlier. But yeah,
Indeed.
so blowing Fournier in the pits. You see Panzer going the long way around on Stevens. Got the tyre advantage, gets the move done before he gets to the braking zone.
Very nice.
Move. Cracking race from Robin.
We were talking about Pansar versus Stevens earlier. They're still closer than I thought they were, but yeah, Pansar has now managed to get right back past Tom Stevens. He was ahead of him earlier actually, so it's kind of been back and forth as Florian Guyer has apparently been having a very long stop, and Stevens is coming back at Pansar. There's not much room through there. They may have done, and Pansar runs wide, so Stevens ducks back underneath him. He'll have his nose in front heading into the chicane here. Is it far enough in front? There's a big curb on the inside. Avoid the sausage curb, avoid the wall. And they do lean on each other out of that corner. Now down towards turn 7. Stevens with the inside line. You've got to give way now, guys.
Oh
my
man,
goodness.
I don't like the way this is looking.
And there you go. So
Wow.
Robin Panzer does get through a fantastic defensive move and good driving from both of them not to end up in the barriers. And we're going to see a replay of it now, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's pretty brave from Tom, especially this stage of the race, to be fighting like that. Gets the DRS down this straight. That's a very brave move into there. He was lucky that Panzer didn't come right across the front of him, to be honest. And then he just ducks underneath. Oh man. Panzer should have really held on to that, but ends up ahead, going into the last sector. Maybe a bit of a DRS crane going on. Let's see. Yes. And he gets the move done. He's two going backwards and forwards.
Here we go. Tom Stevens once again in 4th position now. And 8 laps remaining on the ticket. Show that Panzer's got to get a bit of a move on. And not wear out his tyres in the process. We'll have the slipstream. We go into another braking zone, another left-hander. And then a right-hander. Both 90 degrees. One straight going onto another perpendicular straight. And once again they do the same thing. Jumping over the sausage curb nearly on the inside. And it looks as if Florian Guy has lost both of his wings there. And seems to have some suspension damage too. And that'll be why he had the long pit stop, won't it? Yeah.
Tough end to the race, but he'll still, I assume, bring on some points, despite the long pit stop. Seems to have happened quite early on. He's kept. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like over half a lap.
Even earlier than the castle section.
He's done it completely on his own as well. I'm gonna guess loses the rear at some point.
Not there. It'll be on one of these corners coming up.
No.
Still under control. Now he comes up to a little chicane. And runs straight into the barriers.
Straight in, yeah.
It's almost like he didn't brake there.
Not his finest moment, but who cares? He's still coming away with points.
And Panzer's back through. Panzer is back into 4th place ahead of Tom Stevens. So the battle continues with 7 laps to go.
Who would have thought it'd be these two that were going to be this close? I thought Stevens was quite safe early on at the start of the race, but Panzer's done a cracking job, reeled him right in. I don't think they're going to be able to make a move work from that far back, but let's see if Stevens can hold on to him. It does look like Panzer is stretching it a little bit. I'm not going to say too much, still in the DRS zone, but it seems to be a bigger gap than we've seen in the previous couple of laps between these two.
Robin Panzer's best result was a 2nd place last year in Brazil. There you go. I guess last Brazil is also grammatically correct, but anyway. He retired from the last race and there's a contact, and into the wall goes Panzer!
No.
Just as I'm talking about it, Robin Panzer has made a mistake in the castle section, and he will not just lose out to Tom Stevens, but he'll lose plenty of positions as he pits for heavy damage. And he hits the wall again, he's got to calm it down. And that is such a shame because it ends the fight that we were watching and enjoying so much. And we're going to see a replay of it now. Panzer is just making a mistake into the castle section, as we've seen so many drivers doing. He realized, you could see as he was braking and turning in, he realized he was making a mistake. And by that point, there wasn't really much he could do about it, was there?
Man, I feel like I've put a massive jinx on Robin there. I was giving him all this praise. As you know, Jolyon Palmer said, you've got to be aware on street circuits. You know,
you do indeed.
Not the end to the night that you'd own if car wanted, but again, you'll go in, have a long pit stop, you'll still come away with probably a 12th place finish. good points still. But I'm not saying that he won't be frustrated. He will be kicking himself with that one. That was not an easy top four, but that was a solid top four that he's missed out on there, unfortunately. But that's still going to be both the donors' cars scoring, which is vital.
Fight for P2 unfortunately doesn't appear to be on just yet. Can Owen McGorky get back into DRS of Luke Maguire? Because that's what's going to make the difference here. Doesn't look as if any drivers are running in DRS range right yet. And yeah, McGorky just outside of that range as we talk.
I also think now that it is impossible for George I cannot get his name right. It's not even difficult to pronounce. Giogalis to get points. He's too many laps behind now. So unfortunately, that's his run for points out of the window. But you know, he kept it on track. He's only 8 laps behind because of a disconnect. It's not like he's genuinely 8 laps off the pace. Just want to make that very clear.
Sorry, I like the way that McGorky's let Pansar go through there, because Pansar, you know, he's just come out the pits, he's on soft tyres there, so he's clearly quicker, and McGorky's like, right, I don't need to fight you right now, I'm going to stick in your DRS and see if I can follow you past Maguire, and that might well work actually, I've seen that done before. Pansar will see Maguire up in front and think, why can't I be in this fight for real? But unfortunately it was his own mistake that cost him at least 4th position. Down towards the final sector of this particular lap.
Yellow in sector 2.
Yeah, apparently Giagalis had a little shunt or something, or a spin. It's that stage in the race, isn't it, where drivers are not just lacking for grip, but potentially concentration. And it's also the most gutting time to retire because you've got all the way. So what was that, Szymon? I don't know what you're saying. Anyway. Ah yeah, McGorky's still not in DRS range, my apologies. And Pansar gets through Maguire, so that's potentially a wasted opportunity for Owen McGorky. Unless Pansar holds up unless Pansar holds up Maguire for a few more corners.
Yeah, doesn't look like we're going to have much of a fight, especially not for the lead. And we are getting close to 10 seconds, but doesn't look like he's quite going to get that 10-second gap like he did in Bahrain.
And it looks as if George Giagalis lost his front wing. We mentioned that he had a little incident, he missed the turn 8 as well with the lack of downforce. Slow it down, George, get it back to the pits, you can still finish your first race here. Won't be getting any points for it, but I mean, at least he'll have finished.
That's more than 7 guys can say.
It's very true, very true. Have you done a Super League race, Ryan? Did you finish your first one?
I've done 4 Super League races, I believe. Did Suzuka, Kota. I've done Interlagos. I think best result was Interlagos. That may have been like 16th or 17th, I think. Not points.
Yeah. Close though.
I was very close. Terrible.
Okay.
There's no nice way of putting it. Terrible. I had no idea what I was doing really. Jumped in at the deep end thinking that I was this big talent and really got humbled. As we see Dylan Platt.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about this because I saw a yellow flag come out a couple of seconds ago. And he's missed the corner. Well, could have been worse. I don't think he's lost a place from that, has he?
No. Just keeps going. Is there anybody you can lose a place to without going a lap down? Yes, there is actually, Chris Shepherd.
Chris Shepherd only 5 seconds back now.
Yeah.
Shepherd's not fighting with Lalo anymore.
Oh, there's quite a big gap between them actually, so there might be a pit stop in there somewhere.
Yeah, what has happened there?
Who knows? It's so hard to keep track. Even though, could you imagine if all 24 were still in the race? Without 17, there's so much action happening, it's hard to keep up. We see as well, Vacca's, you know, I mentioned earlier, he dropped behind Stepkowski and he hasn't really caught back up, which is interesting. But
too far behind. Those are two quite evenly matched drivers you've got there, Ryan. And
I thought Vacca could have the tyre advantage, but doesn't look that way at this point in time.
Even though Stepkowski has the advantage today, I think Thomas will have the advantage on other days. Jeffrey Fournier is still the biggest gainer in this race, up 8 positions. The biggest losers, of course, have been the retirees, although for a lot of them that hasn't necessarily been their fault.
Biggest loser on track is Panzer. You know, considering he started 9th, he was doing well.
He was. That's going to be gutting.
You know, he hadn't gained, unlike the people towards the bottom end of the field, he hadn't been gaining positions because of dropouts, really. The only person he probably gained off was Maguire. So he was running a fantastic race. And he was the same at Melbourne until he had issues there as well, but...
Ed Hunter says Shepherd's pace dropped off a few laps ago and Platt passed him. That's true, but Platt's 8 seconds ahead, so that's a big drop off of pace. You know, there must be more to that story. And if Shepherd's tyres had really hit the cliff that much, I'd have thought he'd have come in for new tyres or something, because that is a massive drop off.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd probably be coming in for soft right now. But it's top 15 or top 10?
Top 15.
Top 15, yeah. I'd probably be going in for softs. Nothing to lose, really. We see a replay. We did go yellow in sector 1. I wonder if this is...
So Joffert's a lap down here, actually. That's not a move for position there. He's going to miss the corner.
Too quick. Yeah.
Oh, hits the wall. So Joffert loses his front wing.
And puts it straight on the racing line.
Well, so Joffert had a few incidents earlier on in the race. I appreciate that I haven't had to say his name in a while, because that means he's been going cleanly. And he's going to be the top of the debutants. I mean, even with that lost front wing, he's going to be several laps ahead of Giancarlos, and then of course the Who retired earlier on. None of them have had a particularly good day, but then again, you know, first Super League race, so. But unfortunately, that probably ends our last chance of seeing a debutant getting points today. And that makes sense as Panzer gets back past Shepherd, but yeah, it does make sense because this... And McGorky's in the pits! And, oh, that's probably... He's going for fastest lap, isn't he? He'll go for fastest lap on the last lap of the race. He knows he can't catch Maguire. A little bit risky, but, I mean, I guess he had time to Stevens behind. And this is a one-off outing for McGorky, we understand.
Still got a 13-second gap as well.
Yeah. It's a one-off outing, so yeah, why not, I guess?
Well, you've got to get every point you can. You know, his teammates DNF'd. You've got the gap behind you, why wouldn't you? Might as well.
Fastest lap has now gone the way of Robin Panzer, as we suggested it would. Panzer running P11. Won't quite catch P10 unless Platt runs wide again, but now the battle, of course, is between him and McGorky for fastest lap. He has to get a 1:41.784 at least. Or at most, I guess, because that's how lap times work. You've got to get less.
See what you can do this time round. Oh, next time round, sorry.
Next time round, yeah.
This is an outlap. Everyone in the chat making a good point that Shepherd's going extremely slow. Like, he was over 6 seconds off Panzer on the last lap. So I'm not too sure what's happening with Chris there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's on the 149,
or
isn't he?
Has he hit a wall?
No, that'll be a tyre drop off for sure.
That drastic?
I think so. I mean, it's lasted a while, so.
It just seemed to happen though in like a series of 3-4 laps.
He didn't want to pit though, because I mean there were cars behind him who he. Sorry, there's Oh, Shepherd had to. Who's that?
It's Maguire.
Yeah, is that Maguire? Okay, never mind. My apologies.
He's just, well, he's got nothing to lose now, does he? He's a lap ahead of Fournier.
Yeah, I understand why he didn't want to pit, but I
Not a
probably
lap
would have
ahead,
done.
sorry. He's 25 seconds, so I don't think he's going to lose that in a lap.
I wonder if Pantar's going to try to pass Denahang here, because that would give him another shot at fastest lap, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Would be a bit cheeky on the last lap. Look at him hounding him, going, please give me another lap. Out of the final corner they go. Now this may look like a race for the win, but unfortunately we've had a little bit of dominance here today, but very well deserved from Jake Denahang. He has run away with it. And by about 8.5 seconds, Jake Denahang is going to win for the second time this season. Pantar is going to get another lap in. And Jake Denahang wins at Azerbaijan. A very well-deserved winner here at Baku. Looks as if Maguire will be easily second, but Gorgie is going to get fastest lap by a long way. This is going to be lap record territory here for Owen Gorgie. Let's see what he sets as he comes up to the line. Doesn't really matter much for the race, but it does give Holland Racing Team an extra point in the championship. Is it in the 140s? Oh, it is 140.489. That is absolutely blistering from Owen Gorgie, who sets third place on his 2023 debut for GPVWC Super League. Tom Stevens is fourth, then Daniel Stepkowski fifth, Tomasz Vok sixth. Here's Zolt Schuks, who will be seventh. David Fiduk will be eighth, and then it's going to be Jukka Lalu and Dylan Platt. Silver Joffa with the fastest second sector on the last lap. He of course has fresh tyres as well. So those are the top 10. There were a few drivers a lap down, but it looks as if the rest of the point scorers are going to be Pantar, Shepard, Fournier, Gaia, and Shirtzik, with 17 drivers making it to the end after all. It wasn't a classic of a race, but it was interesting because of the attrition, and it's going to be significant from a championship point of view. And still a good way to spend an evening watching GPVWC Super League racing, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Ryan, what do you make of that?
A funny race. You know, typically we either see loads of action or none at all, and this was a mix where we had like a few laps of, you know, a lot of intense action and then some quite quiet bits, especially towards the end there. Overall solid race. I'm quite happy with the result, especially for my team and for my prediction for the winner. Yeah, I'm happy. Baku always provides good racing, I think. And you know, some of the racing we saw in the midfield, like look at Lalu and Shepard, they were going at it, and it was great fun to watch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Wonderful stuff here as they go towards the pit lane at the end of a day of racing, and Denahang's going to do some donuts and burnouts on the main straight, and well deserved as well. 8.2 seconds was his gap in at the end. 8.3 if you round it up there, since it was an 8.252 the gap, and he's yet to beat his level of domination at Bahrain, but he gave it a good shot today. And while he didn't lead every lap, he certainly seemed to be in control for every lap of the race. Whoa, who's that sliding into the runoff area? That was pretty beautiful as well, and contact between Denahang and Magorgi. Doesn't really matter now. Those two have a lot of history through racing in FS1 and some other categories as well, but mainly FS1 I've seen them racing in the past. And today their Super League rivalry officially kicked off. Magorgi will probably attempt to win the Super League trophy this year, which will mean he won't do the Super Lights trophy, which means he won't do the full Super League Championship. And talking of the full Super League Championship, there you see it on your screen. We've just done the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, so next up will be Saudi on the 4th of May. That's in 2 weeks' time. Keep your eyes open for that one. And then, of course, we'll be going to the Hockenheim Ring, then Catalonia and Montreal wonderful circuits, and then of course we go into the second half of the year. Of course, before we have the next Super League Grand Prix, we also have the junior categories. You've got FS2 on Tuesday, followed by FS1 on Thursday, and then Super Lights is the next Tuesday after that. There's the Formula Sprint 2 calendar, and the next race in that one is on the 25th of April. That will also be streamed here on the GPWC YouTube channel. Right, Ryan, who have you got for our first few interviews?
So first up, we're going to bring in Marco Frelik, who is team manager of Super Venturi. Marco, thank you for joining us. How did you think today went? Did you enjoy the Azerbaijan Grand Prix?
It was something, that's for sure. I mean, not the best result for our team, but I think we found a good spot with the setup. Would have been up there with the top 3, I think, in the race with Jan. But unfortunately, a bit of unluck in the race. But yeah, still a top 10 for Lalo as well with no Belgian, so I guess that's good as well for him.
Really solid run from Lalu. Some really good scraps with Shepard as well, which was great fun to watch on the stream. But as it goes for Jan, I was absolutely gutted. You guys are one of the teams that I tipped at the start of the year for really big things, and Jan's proven that today. Just didn't go his way in the end. Unfortunately, that incident really, Ed Hunter was saying in the chat, that incident really defined the race, and unfortunately it just didn't go his way, and then lost a wing, didn't he, towards the end as well. But I'm sure you guys will be back fighting in Jeddah. You're looking forward to it? A new track for both you guys, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be good. Obviously, we have a new engine for Lalo, and then not gonna have like a 55 for Crankfist as well, I think. So it's gonna be a good race, but yeah, it's not a good thing hearing Finnish drivers right in the voice call. I can tell you that much.
No, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. We're gonna drag in one of our podium finishers. So everybody, that was Marco Frelik, Super Venturi team boss. Thank you again for joining us. I think now we'll drag in our third place driver and our technically fastest racer of the session, Owen McGorgy. Owen, well done today. Good race. I'll let Caitlin take over this interview, but just from my point of view, really good race there. We knew you'd done big things in SL2 Super Lights, and good idea to go for the fastest lap at the end there as well.
Thanks.
Very good. Sorry, Ryan has to run off now. But yeah, Owen, fantastic stuff. This is clearly a circuit you do very well at, having dominated the Super Lights race the other day, and now winning here as well. What is it about this unique circuit that you like so much?
The circuit's all right. I think the setup was more of a help than actually liking the circuit. I mean, even on tracks that I don't like, I can still, get some good pace out of it. I mean, I don't know what it is about this circuit. I definitely didn't like it in 2021, so I don't know why it's become one of my better tracks now.
Fair enough. What a fight with Luke McGuire as well. Do you think you could have done anything different?
Well, the fight in the first stint was just to help Jake out, because I made a mistake, lost the DRS, and I thought I might as well hold him up and give you something good to watch and commentate over. And then in the second stint, I was just sticking behind him, hoping his rears would die off earlier than mine. I was saving tyres and push the pass. Same in the last stint, and then I lost a load of time because of the undercut. Caught back up, made a couple of mistakes, started drifting about, and then my rears died off. And Robin didn't help overtaking me. Then getting out of my DRS, giving Luke more DRS, and then dragging him away. But no, yeah, I don't know what else there was really. It was just me driving my own race and Jake's at the start, really.
Lovely. Now, That was your first Super League podium. Does that change your plans for this year, or is it still all about Super Light?
It's still all about Super Light, so I'm not going to join. I'm not going to join Super League as a primary driver, being 80 points down in the standings. And why would I give up a 44-point lead in Super Lights?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But are you expecting to do any more reserve driver outings this year, or is it just kind of whatever comes up?
Yeah, I know I'm definitely doing one track. I won't say, but I didn't know I was doing this until I think yesterday morning. So yeah.
Amazing. At least you'd already had practice in a similar car and all of that, so you were ready to go.
Well, the cars aren't. They are a bit similar, but they have their differences. Everyone says the Super Lights car is trickier to drive. I don't really like the Super League car. The rear end is just
Really?
awful. Yeah.
Aren't they based on the same chassis?
I think it's the power difference, really.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, well, congratulations on your first Super League podium, Owen, and thank you for talking to us.
Cheers.
So, who else have we got in the interview room here? We have our second place driver, Luke Maguire. Hello, Luke.
Hi again.
Very good. So you were second after a close fight with Owen McGorgy throughout this whole thing. How did that race seem from your point of view?
Yeah, good. Yeah, happy to be second. I thought Owen had a bit more pace at the end, but I think his tires dropped off, and that's why he went for the fastest lap. But fair play to Jake. I think he just had the edge today by a couple of tenths each lap and just pulled I think it was a 6.5, 7 second gap in the end. So I'm happy even just to do the race. My wheel broke about 2 days before the race, and
Oh, wow.
I've been putting together cutting springs for paddles, and just yeah, it's a mess, but yeah, they got me through it.
I like the way you said Jake had the edge. I see what you did there. Very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did seem to have the edge today. There was about 8 seconds between the two of you at the end, which is not the same amount of domination he had at Bahrain, but still quite something there. Do you think there's anything you're going to do differently moving into the future races? Anything you're going to try?
I think I'd probably did the most I could have done for this race. So I want to thank Tom Ely for me and him when I set up night and made a really good setup, and I think that's the best we could have done today. I feel like that's just more talent than anything else that he was ahead, so fair play to him.
Fair enough. And actually, I'm interested because we were talking about this earlier after Adam said he hadn't done much practice for this race. How much practice do you guys tend to do coming up to one of these? Say from a THR point of view.
It kind of depends. I think kind of did good few quality laps, good few race laps. We get the stints in, seeing what's quicker, and then we just kind of build the setup from there. So I don't know. I would say a good. I can't put a lap on it, but 200-300 laps maybe.
Wow.
Maybe more.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I could do. Very good. Well done.
Yeah.
And congratulations on another podium.
Cheers. Thank you. And just want to say thanks to Chris for engineering. He did great today.
So that was Luke Maguire, who's been second in the last 2 races here. Very good. I've actually had a request here, which is to bring in David Fidock. David, how are you? Good
evening. Yes, how are you? A lot better than last week.
Indeed. Well, you're in the top 10 this time. You're P8. Very good. We noticed you run on alternate strategy. From you, that tends to be expected. But yeah, it worked out for you today, didn't it?
Yeah, the old man got to try something different. Quality, I'm just too far behind. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. We got the slowest car on the track. If you look at the updates, we haven't updated for 3 rounds now. So yeah, the car was a bit off. So on it, I've been saying to the guys all week I might just start from the pits or dead last so I don't get involved in crashes. But quality surprised me. Like, it was only a few tenths off the top 10. So I thought, let's just give it a go, see what we can make out of it. And yeah, the start was good, nice and tidy. I had Florian around me, who I know I can trust. Oh my god, yeah. Alex was quite quick at the start behind me, so I let him go. Followed in his DRS for the first stint, saved my tyres, and yeah, I was kind of quiet after that, just trying to keep the car out the wall. But yeah, it was pretty good.
Very good. Thank you for speaking to us about that, David. How about the next few rounds of the championship? We're going to Jeddah for the first time next. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I only played it on F1 on the PS5, so it's going to be a different ball game to R Factor. So not sure. And I'm on holiday tomorrow for a week, so missing.
Oh, where are you going?
It's too wimpy to say any of.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No. Enjoy whatever you're doing, and yeah, congratulations on a top 10 finish.
Yeah, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the race.
Thank you very much, David. We'll see you later. Now, I'm going to very quickly squeeze in another interview just before the end here. Alex, this is Alex Lahu. He has just made his first Super League start. Alex, sorry, I know it didn't go particularly well, but just talk to us about how this opportunity came about and how it feels to have made your Super League debut.
Hi, Caitlin. I didn't expect to get dragged in here. I was just talking to Chris in the VC.
Well, you were in a room titled "Wait here for interview," so.
Oh, fair enough, I guess. Good point.
Indeed. How do you feel about making your Super League debut?
Wasn't really a great debut, to be honest. P19 quali when I was P4 in Superlight. But
yeah,
even
Super
with
League's
the
a very
best lap,
different ball game.
yeah. Even with the best lap I could achieve, that was only good for like P13 or something. There was literally no more time I could find. So
Fair
I'm
enough,
stuck.
fair enough. But I mean, we know you're capable of more. We've seen you race in Super Lights and all that. There were a lot of people cheering you on in the chat as well. I'm sure you saw that happening. You probably speak to those guys quite regularly. But what have you got to say to the people cheering you on from home?
Good stuff. I think you should stop cheering on someone that crashes all the time.
Someone said it was classic Lahu, which I thought was a little mean, actually.
It's fine. It's all fun and games. I take it
Anyway.
easy. It's fine.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
it
talking
was-
to us, Alex. And yeah, congrats on making your Super League debut, even though it didn't go particularly well.
Thank you very much. And it was really fun battling with David Fidok on track for the lead positions for like 2 laps. Hey, I got to lead the race. Let's go.
You did. Very good. Anyway, thank you very much for talking to us, and good luck in whatever you're doing next.
All right. Thank you. And congrats to the winners.
Okay, so that's all we've got time for today, and the only thing I've got to do now actually is just say thank you all for watching. Thank you as well to Szymon and Frelik for providing the cameras and the stream that you see as always. Thank you as well to Ryan. He has had to drop out, but he did an awesome job alongside me today. Thank you to the drivers for putting on such a great show, and of course everyone behind the scenes, race director Chris Williamson, my apologies. And there you go. We will be seeing you in 2 weeks' time for the next Super League race. If we don't see you before then, of course, for FS2 on Tuesday. Good night, guys.